This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
And Big Brown to catch. Krogensky on the outside alongside. And then comes Silver Tree and Chakis. Big Brown digs back for all he's got here. Brodinski cannot get by him. And Big Brown wins. He's won the Monmouth Stakes.
They're at the top of the stretch. Acclimate trying to finish the job. And he's still in front by 3. Astronaut, Red King in the center, and Ward and Jerry, a 16th to go, and Ricky Gonzalez on a joyride in the San Juan Capistrano. He's a 2-time winner. Acclimate, coast to coast, the easiest of wins.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
3/4 and 110 flat, and Notional has taken the lead from Gotcha Gold with a furlong to run. Gotcha Gold trying to fight back though. Notional still there. Gotcha Gold's not done yet. He's battling on from the rail. It's Notional and Gotcha Gold. Notional's got the lead and he's getting away now. And Notional and Joe Bravo win the Salvatore Mile.
And it's Mindframe and Dornick head and head with a furlong left to go. Sierra Leone is closing ground. It's Dornick hugging the rail. Mindframe a little erratic, but he's still right there with Dornick in an absolute thriller. Dornick and Mindframe, it will be Dornick and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Happy Father's Day weekend to all the dads joining us here on HRN this morning and every week throughout the year. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, welcoming you to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum. It is all presented by our friends at TwinSpires and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Happy to have you all back in the starting gate with me right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 162 XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to spend a lot of time looking back on last weekend's Belmont Stakes here this morning. Jockey Agent Kiaran McLaughlin, who represents winning rider Luis Saez, is going to be with me at 8:35 Eastern to talk about the incredible ride which Dornock has taken them on this year. And winning trainer Danny Gargan is my guest on this week's Kentucky-bred conversation in hour number 2 at 9:20. Danny joined me on Trainer Talk this past Wednesday night, and today you're going to hear a small piece of that hour-long conversation with Danny, discussing his Belmont winner and the team which has made it all possible. I'll bring you about 15 minutes or so of that 1-hour Trainer Talk conversation, and I encourage you to head back to our website or any podcast platform when you get some time and listen to that show with Danny. It was fantastic. A lot of great stuff coming out of that hour-long conversation. And as much as I'm really looking forward to those segments, I'm really excited about what lies ahead for this 3-year-old division the rest of the season. With 3 different winners of the Triple Crown races this year, every stakes race is going to matter this summer and fall. Everybody loves when a horse wins the Triple Crown. It's rare, we know that, but everybody loves when it happens. But the downside of something like that is that the 3-year-old champion is already determined at this time of the season. You know it's going to be a horse that swept the Triple Crown. In a year like this, where it is wide open, there is a lot of drama, a lot of excitement, and a lot of intrigue every single time these horses meet between now and the Breeders' Cup. The one race that everybody is going to have their eye on is the Travers at Saratoga on August 24th. But races like the Haskell, the Jim Dandy, the Pennsylvania Derby. They're going to be important resume builders toward a 3-year-old championship in what is a wide-open year. This weekend, fans of professional golf are enjoying the U.S. Open, one of 4 major championships contested throughout the year in that sport. After the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, the Travers, the Midsummer Derby, is our 4th major. And it's hard to be voted 3-year-old champion without winning one of those majors. I know, I'll talk about the Breeders' Cup Classic in a minute. But if you're really serious about being 3-year-old champion, you got to win one of those 4 to keep your name in the mix. A Travers win by either Mystic Dan, Seize the Gray, or Dornoch makes them the clear-cut leader in the clubhouse, no matter what happens in the other races that I just mentioned. But if a horse other than those 3 were to win the Travers, all of a sudden races like the Haskell, the Jim Dandy, the Pennsylvania Derby, they suddenly hold a lot more weight. And that's the same with the Derby prep races that we saw earlier this season, like the Florida Derby, the Bluegrass Stakes. All of a sudden, those races become more weighty, at least in the minds of voters, because now you have almost an even playing field. Let's say you have 4 different winners. You have the 3 different winners of the Triple Crown races. Different horse wins the Travers. Now what do you do? First of all, I think you have to decide, okay, which of those 4 majors carries the most weight? And I think it always comes back to the Kentucky Derby. So I think Mystic Dan, by virtue of winning the Derby, catapults to the head of the class narrowly. Then you have to go back through and look at what those horses did in the races the rest of the season. And this is assuming that none of those 4 horses would go on and win the Breeders' Cup Classic. Let's assume an older horse wins the Breeders' Cup Classic. So you have to go back and look at all of the other resume-building races, which is why I say, if it's not one of those 3 that wins the Travers, if it's somebody else, believe me, the Haskell's important. The Jim Dandy counts. The Pennsylvania Derby goes to another level. If you recall, coming out of the Kentucky Derby, many people were still considering Sierra Leone to be the best 3-year-old among this group, even after that narrow defeat. Do we still look at Sierra Leone the same way after his disappointing 3rd-place finish as the favorite in the Belmont Stakes? A win in the Travers is a must, an absolute must for Sierra Leone if he wants to have any shot at being 3-year-old champion. And what we've seen unfold through the 5 weeks of the Triple Crown Series is the door still open for last year's juvenile champion, Fierceness, to win back-to-back championships. I think the answer is absolutely yes, but he now has 0 margin for error. 0. And I would say the same for Sierra Leone. But Fierceness is in a little different situation. He skipped the Belmont to point for the Haskell at Monmouth on July 20th, which, by the way, today, Haskell preview day at Monmouth. Going to talk with Brian Skirka coming up after the first break at 8:15 Eastern to fill you in on what's taking place there today. But Fierceness skips the Belmont, is going to point for the Haskell, which now is an absolute must-win for him if he wants to keep his championship hopes alive. But even then, there's no guarantee we're going to see Fierceness turn around and run right back in the Travers at Saratoga. If that scenario plays out, here is the only path I see. And there is a path, but it's not easy. If Fierceness wins the Haskell, a win in the Haskell coupled with a win in the Breeders' Cup Classic is the only way I can see Fierceness winning this 3-year-old championship. Anything else falls far short, in my opinion. He has to win both of those races. If he can do that, because he was so dominant early in the season, winning the Florida Derby, then I can see him being voted 3-year-old champion. He probably will be. But he has to win the Haskell. He has to take care of business. If he gets beaten the Haskell, he has zero shot. I don't care if he goes on and wins the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think that he has to win both of those races. So he's got to take care of business on July 20th first. But there is a way that he can be voted 3-year-old champion. It just ain't going to be easy for him. So my poll question this morning, which horse will be voted 3-year-old champion at year's end? Break out your crystal ball, kind of look into the future. Which horse will be voted 3-year-old champion at year's end? I'll give you the 3 Triple Crown race winners, Mystic Dan, Seize the Gray, and Dornoch. And then the 4th category is someone else. And if you think it is somebody other than those 3, please comment. And if you want to let me know the scenario that gets that other horse the 3-year-old championship, please do. I just outlined how I believe fierceness can get to back-to-back championships. Let me know how you think somebody else can be 3-year-old champion other than Mystic Dan, Seize the Gray, or Dornoch. Maybe you do think it's one of those 3. Maybe you think that Mystic Dan, by virtue of his Derby, is going to be too hard to pass now. I don't think so, because he failed in the Preakness and the Belmont. If he comes back and win the Travers, then he's certainly, as I said, any of those 3 come back and win the Travers, they're going to be the clear-cut leader in the clubhouse. So let me know your thoughts. Which horse is going to be voted 3-year-old champion at year's end? You can go to @HRRN on Twitter. I'll say that again, @HRRN. That's the name of the network, Horse Racing Radio Network. Go there on Twitter and go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to cast your vote and let me know your thoughts. And if you don't do social media, believe me, I get it. Just email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I'll pass along the responses later in the program. Here's what's coming up here this morning. Brian Skirka at 8:15 to look ahead to the Haskell and Haskell Preview Day coming up at Monmouth this afternoon. Jockey Agent Kiaran McLaughlin at 8:35. Looking forward to visiting with him. Big news, too. Not just a huge weekend for Kiaran and jockey Luis Saez last Saturday, but how about the news that Kiaran is now going to be representing one of the greatest to ever do it, Hall of Famer John Velasquez. I'll talk to him about that coming up at 8:35 as well. 9:20 is time for our Kentucky-bred conversation. This week, you'll hear from Danny Gargan. I told you about 15 minutes of that trainer talk conversation, and it is outstanding. The way that Danny walks through the race with me and the way that Danny talks about the team and everybody else associated with Dornoch, the Belmont winner. So stay tuned for that. 9:40, going to turn our attention westward to California. Of course, the big news last weekend, the closing of Golden Gate in Northern California. Steve Sherman, the man who was part of that magical run with California Chrome 10 years ago, along with his dad Art and his brother Alan. Steve is going to be with me at 9:40 to talk about Golden Gate Fields. He knows that racetrack as well as anybody. He's a native of Northern California. It means something to him. And he'll talk about, too, what the future holds now for California racing. Where does he go from here with his operation? And not just him, but all of the horsemen who were based at Golden Gate. What does this mean going forward? 10 o'clock Eastern, Hour 3 begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson will do the honors for you. She has 3 races you can keep an eye on this week. 10:20, it's Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History. And at 10:30, Dale and Tim both going to be with me for I Ask, They Answer. We'll talk about the Belmont. We'll talk about a few other topics as well coming up in the final segment of the show. So a lot to get to. Don't forget about the poll question. Stay with me. Brian Skirka is next from Monmouth. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Fans, it's closing weekend here at Santa Anita Park. and it is a weekend you don't want to miss. Today we have great live racing that is highlighted by the $100,000 Possibly Perfect Stakes. And tomorrow brings the $100,000 Cinema Stakes and the Grade 3 fan favorite San Juan Capistrano Stakes. Tomorrow, of course, is Father's Day. Come celebrate Father's Day in style at Santa Anita Park. Great options are available throughout the park. Join us for a party in the Chandelier Room and treat dear old Dad to an unforgettable experience filled with gourmet delights and the finest whiskey tastings. On the track apron, we will have a special barbecue event so that Dad can have a day filled with delicious food and thrilling horse racing. We will also have mandatory payouts in all the pools on Father's Day, most notably in the Pick Six. The top jockeys, the top trainers, the best Father's Day ever, and world-class racing are all here at the great race place, Santa Anita Park.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
As the field races on the far turn, it is Verrazano and his main competition out of the race here. So he's leisurely coming to the quarter pole, 3 in front of Reporting Star. And after 3 quarters in 1:12 and 3, they're into the stretch, and John Velasquez and Verrazano pull away to a 5-length lead. Reporting Star is second, and then it's Bethel and Gefest. No competition left today for Verrazano, and he rolls on home to win the Pegasus. Finishing well in the end at Verrazano. It's Reporting Star second, Bethel third, and Gefest was fourth.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, all presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you along with me right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was Larry Colmus with the call of the 2013 running of the Pegasus Stakes, won by the Todd Pletcher-trained Verrazano. Verrazano going on to win the Haskell that same year. Pletcher trying to do it again here in 2024. We'll see if he can pull it off. You have the Pegasus Stakes coming up later this afternoon. It is Haskell Preview Day. There are also a trio of Grade 3 races slated at Monmouth this afternoon, the Eatontown, the Monmouth Stakes, and the Salvatore Mile. Great day of racing. Brian Skirka is with me now, live from the Jersey Shore. Brian, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. That was a blast from the past there. Larry calling the races. Pegasus from, what was that, 11 years ago? So we'll have another good rendition today, I'm sure.
Yeah, it should be fantastic. What's this day hold? I went through some of the highlights there as I was introducing you, but tell me a little bit more about what we can expect at Monmouth this afternoon.
Yeah, it looks, everything from all indications, it's a great 12-race card, really full fields over the course of the day. The turf rails are at 0 today, so we can have nice big fields. There's a claiming race on the turf earlier on that is a 14-horse field, and all runners also eligible. So I think this is a day that we really targeted as a track, as the racing office, as, all right, the Triple Crown races are over. There's a little bit of a, I don't want to use the word lull, but I'll use the word lull, nationally in terms of big-time stakes races. And this is a day that we targeted for exactly what it sounds like, Haskell Preview Day. All the races that run on Haskell Day pretty much have a prep race today. Stakes-wise, we want to be the focal track and card today. I think we accomplished that. It's a great card, and it ends with 4 consecutive races. The last 4 races of the day, races 9 through 12. So that'll be a 50-cent all-stakes pick 4. And, beautiful weather, so super excited about it.
Yeah, the placing on the calendar has turned out brilliantly for you. As you said, it's a week where the Triple Crown is now finished, and now we can start looking ahead to, the matchups that we're going to see later this summer in races like the Haskell, which comes up on July 20th. I was just outlining a scenario, Brian, in my opening comments to the program, where I believe Fierceness, the juvenile champion, still has an opportunity to be 3-year-old champion this year, but he's pointing for the Haskell. He must win the Haskell when he shows up there next month.
I think it's wide open for championship. I think you can come up with, 5 or 6 horses that can, if they have a big second half of their 3-year-old season, win 3-year-old champion. There's no repeat winner, obviously, in a Triple Crown race. A lot of the horses that won the big prep races leading into the Triple Crown races weren't the ones that won the Triple Crown races. So if a horse, gets hot and pulls off some combination of Haskell, Travers, Pennsylvania Derby, Breeders' Cup, wins 2 of those 4 or performs very well in all of them, it's completely wide open. And that should hopefully, knock on wood, bode well for the Haskell. It's a grade 1. It's a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. So I think if your end goal is 3-year-old championship, you have to be here because you can't afford to let one of your rivals win the Haskell while you're sitting on the sidelines or running someplace else. So I think hopefully everything points towards a big Haskell this year.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be a fantastic race. And Fierceness may be one of the bigger names because of what he's accomplished throughout his career so far. And maybe this is unfair to ask you this at this point sitting here on June 15th, but who are some of the other horses that you're hearing may be heading to the Jersey Shore for the Haskell?
Yeah, well, you'll definitely see some of them in the Pegasus today. It is a win and you're in for the Haskell, so I would have to think whoever wins the race today is heading to the Pegasus, headed to the Haskell. I know Hades, win or lose today. His ultimate goal, they've stated, is to get to the Haskell. Sea Streak, the Jersey bred who's in the Pegasus today, same thing. Their goal is to get to the Haskell. And I was reading this week that I think Chad Brown kind of has Domestic Product penciled in as his Haskell horse, hopefully. So I think those 3 that are running today, win or lose, hopefully will, with a good race under their belts today, head to the Haskell. I think Bob Baffert has stated that Moose is his, hopefully potential Haskell horse for this year. He's back in training. So that would be obviously very exciting. Horses like Seize the Gray, basically all of the horses that won the Triple Crown races, we're very hopeful. A lot of years, the Haskell kind of gets added in as almost that 4th leg of the Triple Crown. That's where those big horses go next. And you never know. I'm not throwing this out there as if I've heard anything. This is just, hopefully look at the sky. But, maybe at some point they run the filly, the Oaks winner against the boys, and maybe the Haskell is a spot, for that potentially. Again, I'm not breaking any news. I haven't heard a single thing. I'm just throwing out there as possible conjecture of, if they want to, go for a Horse of the Year campaign maybe and they decide to run against the boys, who knows? But I think there's a lot of horses out there, like we said, that could use the Haskell on their resume for a 3-year-old championship.
Yeah, I'm sure you would gladly open the door for Ken McPeak if he decided to go that direction, wouldn't you?
I think one or the other, either the Derby winner or a filly against the boys, I think would be either would be welcome here on the Jersey Shore.
It would be. You mentioned the Pegasus and the win and you're in for the Haskell. The race came up, I think, very, very strong. But I want to focus on the Jersey bred that you mentioned, Sea Streak. Really cool story here. Eddie Owens Jr., the trainer, wins the Long Branch last time out, does it quite easily, winning by more than 7 lengths. Tell me a little bit more about Sea Streak and the story surrounding him.
So I do know he's named after the ferry. So the ferry that goes back and forth between Atlantic Islands and New York City is called Sea Streak. So that's where the name comes from. The owners, the horse is Jersey bred, so the owners are obviously very local. The horse was bred at Holly Crest Farm, which is probably 5 minutes from where I was raised, where my parents live, where I grew up. I didn't even realize till much later in life, where I grew up, there's a little pond where you go fishing for sunnies and whatever, and Holly Crest Farm is literally like right across the street from that. So I had no idea about that till I was probably 30 years old. So literally, Holly Crest, one of the best breeding operations in New Jersey. So I literally spent a lot of my childhood, 2 minutes away from that fishing in a pond. But Eddie Owens is on fire this year. As a trainer, 9 starts at Monmouth, 5 wins so far. And the horse has just been, extremely rock solid. He debuted last year in a stakes race in the Smoke Lackland. He finished second behind a horse named Bookham Dano, who we all know, obviously, from last week, winning the Grade 1 up at Saratoga. So second, running an 86 by in his debut in a stakes race, not too shabby at all. He then went to Belmont at Aqueduct in the fall and romped to win his maiden. He spent the winter at Gulfstream. He hit the board in the Mucho Macho Man, was third. Was seventh in the Holy Bull, but then he came back to his home sweet home in New Jersey and absolutely ran off the screen last time in the Long Branch, as you said. So he's a horse that seems true to form, bred, born, raised in New Jersey, and he loves it here. His best two races of his career have been here at Monmouth.
Yeah, and we get a cool rematch, too, with Hades and Domestic Product, who met in the Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream back on February 3rd. Hades defeated Domestic Product that day. We know Domestic Product came back to win as well. This showdown between those two should be fun to watch this afternoon.
Yeah, Hades is a very interesting horse. He won his first three races, including the Holy Bull. He beat Domestic Product, as you said, in that Holy Bull. He beat Fierceness, who was just expected to, romp in that race. So that kind of stamped Hades as, hey, maybe this is a Kentucky Derby horse. Things didn't go right in the Florida Derby. They tried to get into the Derby in the Lexington. Things didn't go right there as well. So this is their kind of step back, give him some time, get to Monmouth. His owners, DJ Stables, are Jersey people as well. So their stated goal from a long time ago was get him to Monmouth, run in the Pegasus, run in the Haskell. This is their plan. It'll just be interesting to see if they can get the horse back to where he was. It's those last two races, in tough competition don't look all that good. He was beaten 20 lengths in both of his last two races. But can he get back to his good race? Because his good race obviously puts him right in the mix here.
I mentioned the name Todd Pletcher as I was introducing you coming out of that commercial break when we heard the call of Verrazano winning the Pegasus Stakes back in 2013. Tuscan Sky is his entrant. The Spendthrift Farm color bearer will be ridden by Hall of Famer Javier Castellano. Disappointed in the Wood Memorial at short odds last time out. They add blinkers. This will be his first start since that race in April. He could be a handful if he is back on track.
Yeah, definitely has credentials to win this race. He was just under 3-1 in that Wood Memorial, coming off of a 95 buyer down at the fairgrounds. So certainly has run fast races. If he ran a 95 buyer back in February, normal progression would think he could run that, if not better. His best race. He has a kind of interesting, workout schedule, locale schedule. So since he ran in the Wood, looks like he was supposed to run in one of the undercard races at Pimlico, scratched out of that race. Then it looks like he went to Churchill. He has two works at Churchill, June 1st and June 8th. Was he shipped there with the intention to run in the Matt Winn, which was last week, and then didn't make that race and now ships here? Not 100% sure. He just has an interesting travel pattern. But just based on his, the races, his first two races of his career, can certainly win this race.
The Pegasus is race number 10 on the 12-race program. 5:24 Eastern is the post, mile and a 16th on the main track. You also mentioned the 4 stakes races being run in succession as the last 4 races of the day. So let's back it up to race number 9, which is the first of those 4, the Grade 3 Eatontown, 4:55 Eastern. This one, a mile and a 16th race on the grass for the older fillies and mares. Tell me a little bit more about this race.
So, again, very competitive. You have big-time names. Chad Brown has 2 in here. Graham Motion ships 1 in. George Weaver with Sacred Wish, who's now a turf horse, did some good things on the dirt last year, now has switched over and is a very competent, turf horse coming off a wire-to-wire win. Kendra Carmouche ships in to ride her. I like a couple horses towards the outside. Ocean Club, I think, is going to be my top pick, and Maman June. Maman June being one of Chad Brown's horses, probably the less experience of the two. Tax Implications is 7 being his other horse. She has some stakes on her PPs. Maman June won an allowance race here at Monmouth last time out. Didn't get the highest buyer in the world, only an 83, but was extremely visually impressive. Swooped the field, made his catapulting move on the far turn, and continued on to win by 4 lengths. If she continues to improve, she only has 3 races here in America, 7 races total. She started her career in Europe. She's one that I was hoping to get maybe a little bit more than 6-1 on the morning line, given her semi-light figs. But, Chad Brown is her trainer, and again, she's coming off a very, very visually impressive race. So I guess I'm not surprised to see her just 6-1 on the morning line. But I like Ocean Club. Another one is lightly raced. She's only run 4 times on the turf. Her figures are going in the right direction. Jack Sisterson trains for Glen Hill Farms. He sent 1 horse here earlier this year with the same owner. That horse was a wire-to-wire winner on the turf, so we'll try to get these connections to have 2 wins over the Monmouth Park turf course this year. And I like her kind of stalking style. The rails are down on the turf. So a lot of times at all tracks really, but here as well, once you get that fresh grass that hasn't been run on very recently, speed can hold pretty well because the speed horses are running on pristine turf that hasn't been run on for a while. So I'm going to look for horses maybe a little closer to the pace for my top picks, and that's going to be Ocean Club in the Eatontown.
Brian Skirka joining me live from Monmouth Park, looking ahead to Haskell Preview Day this afternoon. That's race number 9, the Grade 3 Eatontown. We told you that race 10 is the Pegasus. Race 11 is the Grade 3 Monmouth Stakes, mile and an eighth on the turf. What are the main storylines in here, Brian?
Another really, really competitive race. Beatbox comes in, just taking him in kind of post-position order of the horses that I think will take the most money. Beatbox is the 2. Was 5-2 last time in the dinner party at Pimlico after a good series of races this winter at the fairgrounds. Didn't fire at all, really, in the dinner party. I think that's a race moving forward that a lot of people are just going to kind of put a line through. But that was a race run right before the Preakness. The turf was soft, and it just, conditions that horses, some horses, love, some horses don't. So even though Beatbox has a win in his career over soft turf, I'm just going to put a line through the last one. Same is true for the horse that's going to be my top pick on the outside, Running B. He came out of that same race as well. I'm just going to put a line through the soft turf. He didn't run terribly. He finished third. He was close to the pace the whole way, and the winner came from last. So we'll give him a little extra credit for being closer to the pace, but not his A race, I think, over the soft going. But the middle horses in the race are all super competitive. Todd Pletcher sends in Grand Sonata, 3-1 on the morning line. This horse is super consistent, has won over 700,000 in his career. Not the ultimate win machine, but is always right there. Siege of Boston, the 5 for Jimmy Toner, comes out of the Grade 1 Turf Classic at Churchill. This horse has run competitive races. Adamo is the 6 for Chad Brown. He's a United Nations winner from a couple years ago. He needs firm turf to get back to his best, which he should get today. And Fort Washington for Shug McGahee, a deep closer that's run some good races. And then, of course, Tawnyport, also in there for Christophe Clement. So some big names in terms of owner-trainer. A lot of big jockeys shipping in today. Flavian Pratt is here. Kendrick Carmouche is here. Javier Castellano is here. So the Monmouth Stakes, an absolute wide-open race. But I'm going to go with Running B. Like I said, I don't see much speed in this race. And hopefully Running B getting back to more of a firmer turf and maybe an easy pace scenario up front. Hopefully we'll get Running B to the winner's circle.
The afternoon wraps up with the Grade 3 Salvatore Mile as race number 12, 1 mile on the main track. It's for the older horses. And, Brian, you don't often see a horse at even money on the morning line, but that is the case with the Todd Pletcher-trained Bright Future in that 12th race, the Salvatore Mile. This is his race to lose, isn't it?
I think so, but the distance is a semi. To me, this is a fascinating race. It's why it's the last race of the card. Bright Future, like you said, is even money on the morning line. He comes out of the Breeders' Cup Classic. He's now running in the Grade 3 Salvatore Mile, but he hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup Classic. So you can absolutely come up with a scenario of he's the best horse in the race. He has 2 wins in his career at a mile. He's the best horse in the race. He's going to win. I could also give you the devil's advocate of he hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup Classic. He really took an improvement in terms of buyer speed figures last year when he stretched out in distance, 1 mile and an eighth, 1 mile and a quarter. Is this just a means to an end? Is this just a start to get him into longer races? Again, he's coming off of that long layoff. So it's a fascinating kind of one of those, when he wins, no one in the world is going to be surprised. But I'm going to take a shot to beat him. I think there's enough between the layoff, the distance. I think there's enough to try to take a shot against him today.
Any special wagers associated with today's program or offers or giveaways or things like that, Brian?
So we have a little bit of everything. So like I said, the 4 stakes that we just went through are part of an all-stakes pick 4, just the normal, the last 4 races on the card are always a pick 4. So we put the stakes there, so it's a very appealing, stakes-laden pick 4. We do have all 4 of those stakes races are part of the cross-country pick 5, which we do with our partners NYRA. So it's our 4 stakes races, and then they run a stakes race today on the dirt. The Better Rose is a Grade 2, so it's an all-stakes cross-country pick 5 today, which will be super exciting. We have an online handicapping contest today through Horse Tourneys, a $1 feeder. So our next live money handicapping contest is on Haskell Day, July 20th. It's a $1,000 buy-in. But there's a feeder today on horse tourneys. It's a $1 buy-in. All 12 of our races are part of that contest, pick and pray. And the top 5 finishers of that contest earn their seat into the live money $1,000 Haskell Challenge. So that's something, it's $1. So it's literally basically as close to a free roll as you can get. And finally, anyone who's joining us on site, you still have time to get here. Today is our beach towel giveaway featuring the last 20 years of Haskell hats. So it's actually a pretty cool looking beach towel. There's 20 Haskell hat images on it, the last 20 years of Haskell hats. So to tie into, of course, the Haskell Preview Day theme. So wagering-wise, late pick 4, horse tourneys, cross-country pick 5. And then if you are in the area or you want to get here in the next few hours, we'll have our beach towel giveaway today.
Yeah, Monmouth Park, the focal point of the racing world this afternoon. What a card it is. Brian, really appreciate the time here this morning. Look forward to catching up again in about 5 weeks when we get to Haskell Day. That should be a tremendous card and a tremendous race as well. Really appreciate laying everything out for us, and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me as always. Enjoy it yourself, and best of luck to everybody.
You got it, buddy. Brian Skirka here on HRRN. The 12-race program at Monmouth, by the way, begins at 12:50 Eastern, and then again runs through that 12th race. Going to be a tremendous day on the Jersey Shore. Coming up next, I'm going to get a chance to welcome Kiaran McLaughlin to the program. Haven't talked to Kiaran in a while. He told me, well, I'm going to save this for when I introduce him, but I'll tell you what he told me when I come back. That's right after your Legends of the Turf and this short commercial break.
When experts gather to discuss the greatest American racehorse of all time, the list includes 3 that invariably rise to the top of the conversation: Man o' War, Citation, and Secretariat. The relative merits of these 3 superstars may well be undeterminable in actual fact, but Citation's 3-year-old campaign was perhaps the singularly greatest individual year ever enjoyed by a racing thoroughbred. Citation's 2-year-old record was 8 wins in 9 starts, the only blemish on an otherwise perfect slate, a defeat at the hands of his Calumet stablemate Bewitch when that outstanding filly defeated him in the Washington Park Futurity. Citation was named the 2-year-old of the year and ranked alongside Bewitch at the top of the experimental free handicap. At the end of his 3-year-old campaign, Citation's weight evaluation was 15 pounds greater than that of his nearest rival. Most 3-year-olds campaigning exclusively against their own age group until the second half of the year. Not so Citation. He opened his sophomore season on the track with 2 wins against older horses. He followed that success with 2 wins against his peers before suffering a defeat in a 6th-furlong prep race at Havre de Grace in Maryland. That race was to Saggy, sire of the 1968 Kentucky Derby winner, Carryback. After that, Citation racked up 15 consecutive victories. Included in that skein were an easy sweep of the Triple Crown races, so easy that it was almost anticlimactic. In the 1948 Derby, Citation was such a prohibitive favorite that Colonel Matt Wynn eliminated placing show wagering in that event. Citation won the Derby by 3.5, the Preakness by 5.5, and the Belmont by 8 open lengths. After totally demolishing and completely demoralizing all the 3-year-olds, he went on to become against older horses and won the Stars and Stripes at Washington Park in track record time. Later in the fall, he proved his stamina by sailing home to a 7-length win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup over a distance of 2 miles at Belmont Park. By the end of October, there was not a single horse willing to challenge him in the winner-take-all Pimlico Invitational. That outing turned out to be nothing more than an exhibition for public benefit, a walkover in racing parlance. By the end of 1948, Citation had won 19 of 21 races at 9 different tracks at distances from 6 furlongs to 2 miles. He had been ridden by 3 different jockeys and had won or on tracks listed as fast, good, muddy, heavy, and sloppy. He was not only 3-year-old Colt of the Year, but also Horse of the Year, and on top of that, Handicap Horse of the Year. Unfortunately, the rest of Citation's story is dotted with cases of injury and frustration. He was off the racetrack for an entire year because of various ailments. He came back to race at the age of 5 when he won an allowance race in January at Santa Anita. In his next 8 starts, he finished second 7 times with only 1 win. Incredibly, in 6 straight races, he was defeated in track record time. 5 of those losses were in world record time. Plus, he was invariably giving weight to the opposition, which makes that record doubly significant. Citation was nearly $100,000 short of becoming Race's very first millionaire at the age of 6, so after a 10-month layoff, he did come back. He began that campaign slowly, but finally scored in the Argonaut Handicap and then chalked up a second tough win in the American Handicap. Then on July 14, 1951, in his last race, he nailed down the $100,000 first prize in the Hollywood Gold Cup to attain the coveted $1 million earnings mark his owners had doggedly pursued for 3 years. In 45 career starts, Citation had 32 wins and was in the money 44 times. But that 3-year-old campaign goes unmatched to this very day. Neither Man o' War nor Secretariat campaigned at the age of Citation's later efforts, so we will never know. But Citation was indeed one of the very best horses that I personally have ever seen.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's Voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are thrills around every turn at Gulfstream Park with heart-pounding horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Join us in Ten Palms Restaurant for an elevated view of the track or take in the races at the Carousel Club, trackside. Come out on Saturdays and enjoy high-quality stakes races and join us all summer long for an expanded event schedule. Simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important broodmares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
No one in horse racing was more confident than Louis Saez. After the Derby, he said, Danny, we're going to win the Belmont. I never got to let him run today. He said he was 10th, only beaten 15 lengths, and he never got to run at all. He said I was stuck the whole race. He said he felt great. He's doing great. He said, please don't take me off him in the Belmont. I want to win the Belmont with him. I said, Louis, you don't have to worry. I'm not making a change. We're going to win the Belmont together. And I'm telling you, I couldn't be happier for him. Karen, I worked for Wayne and Karen as a kid. Mark Henning was an assistant there then, and I couldn't be happier for him. And like I said, no one in horse racing was more confident in the horse than Louis Saez. All week leading up to it, he came by and he kept telling all of us we're going to win the Belmont.
Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, back with you on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. That was Belmont Stakes winning trainer Danny Gargan talking about jockey Luis Saez and the confidence that he had going into last Saturday's Belmont Stakes. It was certainly rewarded in a big, big way. Kiaran McLaughlin trained horses for many, many years, had a ton of success. He won the Belmont with Jazzle, if you recall. Kiaran saddled so many big-time winners, but in 2020 decided to walk away from training to be the jockey agent for Luis Saez, and that has paid dividends on so many levels for Kiaran and for his family and for jockey Luis Saez. And I remember when I visited with Kiaran on my Trainer Talk program right after he retired, he told me that would probably be the last time I'd ever have him on the show because nobody ever wants to talk to the jockey agent. Well, guess what? When you win the Belmont Stakes, we want to talk to Kiaran McLaughlin, the jockey agent. Kiaran, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
How cool was that last Saturday?
It was fabulous. It was great for everybody, the industry. It was great for the owner and the industry with him, the baseball player being so happy and talking great about our sport. And Luis has always loved this horse, and Danny Gargan. It just was a fabulous day.
Yeah, Jason Worth. He said that he compared the Belmont Stakes to being just as exciting as winning the World Series, and that doesn't surprise me because Alex Bregman, the third baseman for the Houston Astros, has told me that watching his horses run, he gets more nervous than he does standing at the plate in the bottom of the ninth because that's his comfort zone. It's not his comfort zone when he's sitting in the grandstand watching his horses.
I know, that was great to hear him say that, and it was great for, like I said, our industry with Wayne Lucas winning the Preakness and then this day happening for all of us. Last Saturday was fabulous.
More fun to win the Belmont as a trainer or as a jockey agent?
I would say a trainer just because of your staff and putting in so much time, but it's nice that I'll probably be the only jockey agent to say I won it as a trainer and as an agent.
We heard Danny talking about the relationship that he's had with you and Wayne and everybody who comes from that Wayne Lucas training tree, if you will. How cool is it to win it for Danny Gargan?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he works very hard, and it's nice to see him being able to upgrade his stock and buy nice horses because he has a good eye for a yearling, 2-year-old in training, and he does a great job. So it's nice to see him at another level.
How did you first get the mount on Dornoch?
From Danny talking about him and Luis working him. So we work horses at Saratoga every morning, and Luis loved him and Danny loved him, and we were fortunate to get on him early.
He's now been aboard him 6 consecutive races. His first was October 14th, 2023 at Keeneland. That was the day that Dornoch broke his maiden, and then Luis has been his regular pilot ever since. As you're watching the race, I asked Danny this question when he joined me on Trainer Talk this week, but as you're sitting there watching the race, Kiaran, what was going through your mind as they turned for home?
I was just worried a little bit about Irad. He looked pretty good moving there right next to us, and I was worried a little bit about him, but I knew Luis always saves a little horse, and the horse is a fighter. So if Irad came up next to him, I thought we could fight back and still maybe win, but it worked out well. And I think Irad probably was thinking that he didn't want to get up there head-to-head with him after the Remsen and seeing him come back on his brother Jose. So maybe he stayed away from him a little bit, but it was very, very exciting.
Danny also talked to me about the disappointing performance in the Kentucky Derby, and he talked about drawing the inside one post position, which no trainer ever wants to get. As the agent, I'm sure Luis is thinking, okay, that's fine. I know the history of the one hole isn't great, at least recent history. I'm the one who has to figure out a trip from here. But when you saw post position 1, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't happy. No one's ever happy. It's the new starting gate helped the situation, I think. But when you don't break real sharp, and the Brian Hernandez came over pretty quick on us, it was just a horrible trip from there. And the 20 horses is hard, 19 horses is hard to get through. So it just didn't go well. And right after the race, I talked to Dan. He said, look, Luis loves his horse. Just throw the race out, and please don't take us off.
Yeah, that confidence and was rewarded by Danny Gargan, by Luis Saez. What a ride and beautiful result in the Belmont Stakes. Why did you choose Luis when you decided to leave training and become a jockey's agent?
I didn't really choose him. I was very fortunate that I was friendly with Richard DePass, and he asked me if I'd be interested. And I think he was surprised when I said yes, I would be very interested. And it was like 6 months before it happened, he was going to retire. So when he brought it up to me, I said, I would love to do it. I did it 30 years ago for Chris Antley, and for a year and a half I had Chris Antley. So I knew what to do and how to do things. Had changed a lot, but I was very excited to work with Luis, and it was a tough decision to give up training. I had great owners that people would love to train for, but I thought that Luis was just, a star jockey and a great person, and I thought it was a fabulous opportunity.
Well, you're now 4 years removed from making that decision to stop training horses, Kiaran. You happy with the decision? You miss training at all?
I miss the horses, yes, and we all love horses that work with horses every day. But with all the regulations and HISA and things going on today, I'm very, very happy doing what I'm doing.
How much has your life changed since you made that call?
Yeah, quite a bit. It's not as stressful and not as much, difficult day-to-day routine. So I'm at Belmont this morning. I come out a lot in the mornings in Florida. Saratoga, I'm out every day. So I get to see all my friends and people because I would miss that if I wasn't out. So I'm enjoying life, and I have one or two people I work with now and not 60 or 80 on the payroll every week. So things are going very well.
I threw out a poll question this morning, and we're receiving a lot of responses, and I asked listeners to let me know which horse they feel is going to be voted 3-year-old champion at the end of the season. Now, obviously it's wide open, and there's a lot of racing left to be done between now and, let's say, the Breeders' Cup. Dornoch, surprisingly to me, is a horse that is not the favorite in the voting. I thought maybe Mystic Dan or Dornoch would go back and forth, but most people are saying it's going to be somebody other than the three winners of the Triple Crown races this year. How about for you? I'm sure you got your money on Dornoch right now.
Yes, certainly we do. You never know because of the timing, but you would think that we have a great opportunity. It's the next few races that are important.
Yeah, Danny said Jim Dandy likely, and then looking ahead to the Travers will be his next ultimate goal, and I'm sure that that's going to be on the radar for most of the top connections.
Yes, it's great because he kind of has home court advantage there. He trains every day at Saratoga. He's stable there with his stable, so that sounds great to us.
You put out some big news earlier this week, Kiaran. You come on the heels of winning the Belmont with Luis Saez, and then you announced that you'll be representing a Hall of Fame jockey starting this week.
Yes, Johnny Velasquez and I got together a few days ago. It happened kind of quickly, but he's a Hall of Famer and fabulous to work with, and I have big shoes to fill with Ron Anderson, moving on with Joel and Frankie and giving up Johnny. If there was a Hall of Fame for agents, he's definitely a Hall of Fame agent. So we work well together all the time. A lot of us agents do, but I'm very pleased and honored to have Johnny.
How much, well, let's put it this way. What are the biggest similarities between Luis Saez and John Velasquez that make them such good riders?
Well, they work hard, love our sport, and give 110% every day toward it. And Johnny's so smart, and he's been riding for so long. He's very smart. He sometimes outsmarts the younger guys. Luis works his rear end off every day, and he's great out of the gate and putting horses in position. And they're great people. Both of them have great families, and they're just fabulous people to be around.
Well, just like you and your family, Kiaran, and it's been a pleasure to have you back here on the program. I always love to talk with you, and congratulations on the success with Luis, and then congratulations on Johnny V, too. All the best with both of those riders, and we'll look forward to catching up again down the road, my friend.
Thank you very much for everything you do for our sport, and reach out anytime. I love talking to you.
All right, keep it rolling, buddy. Kiaran McLaughlin here on HRRN. How about that news? Johnny V going to Kiaran McLaughlin. And as he said, Ron Anderson moving on with Joel Rosario, Frankie Dettori. And Ron Anderson is maybe the greatest to ever do it. And that was so nice to hear Kiaran say if there was a Hall of Fame for jockeys agents, then Ron Anderson is certainly the guy that has to be in there. You know what? There really should be. I think there should be. I think that might be something to talk about more in the future. Should there be a category in the Hall of Fame for agents? Because Ron Anderson has done, and I know he has some of the best riders. He's represented guys like Jerry Bailey in the past and some of the best to ever do it. But there's still an art and a skill to being a jockey's agent too. Maybe we'll get into that down the road. That might be a fun segment to get into here on the Equine Forum. All right, when I come back, going to update you on the results of the poll question, and I'll get you ready for what's ahead in hour number 2 and hour 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Attention horsemen, are you planning on running in this year's Claiming Crown at Churchill Downs? Prairie Meadows will run a $50,000 Claiming Crown prep race on July 26th with the top 3 finishers earning a free berth to the Kent Sterling Claiming Crown Iron Horse at Churchill on November 16th. Both races are run at a mile and a 16th under $8,000 lifetime starter allowance conditions. The entry day for the Prairie Meadows race is July 19th. Don't miss your chance to secure your spot in this year's Claiming Crown.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton.
Please join me in welcoming Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher.
Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito on Trainer Talk. Welcome Hall of Famer Bob Baffert to the program. Hall of Fame trainer Shug McGahee, nice enough to spend some time with us. Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott here on Trainer Talk.
Dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Cassie.
Trainer Talk, the biggest names in horse racing. Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
California Chrome is pulling away. California Chrome into the final furlong. He's got a 5-length lead on his competition. It is California Chrome in front. And from the back of the pack on the outside, Commanding Curve is taken second. But California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome comes into the final furlong with a 2-length lead. Right on Perlin on the outside is trying to catch him. California Chrome reaching for the wire. Another 16th on the outside right on Perlin. Can't get him. California Chrome has won the Preakness.
10 years ago, a very jubilant scene for the connections of California Chrome. Winning the Kentucky Derby, winning the Preakness. Larry Colmus had the call for you there a decade ago. Less jubilant scene last weekend in Northern California with the closing of Golden Gate. Steve Sherman, who along with his father Art and brother Alan went on that magical ride 10 years ago with California Chrome. He's going to be with me coming up at 9:40 Eastern here in the second hour of the program. Steve is part of the fabric of Golden Gate, and he is now having to move on with his operation after the closing of that racetrack. I'll ask him about his favorite Golden Gate memories, and then we're going to talk about his future and the future of so many horsemen now dealing with some uncertainty with California racing. And I'll get a chance to talk to him coming up later in this second hour of the program. Also, you're going to hear from Belmont winner Danny Gargan, who joins me for this week's Kentucky-bred conversation. Danny is a native of Louisville and now a Belmont Stakes winning trainer. So I think you're going to really enjoy hearing from him coming up right around 9:20 or so, maybe slightly earlier than that. So stay tuned there. Update you on the poll question this morning. I'm asking you, break out the crystal ball. A lot still to happen over the course of the next several months. But which horse will be voted 3-year-old champion at year's end? Is it the Derby winner, Mystic Dan? Is it the Preakness winner, Seize the Gray, or the Belmont winner, Dornock? Or do you think it's somebody completely different, not one of those top three? So far, 65% of you are saying that, yeah, it's not going to be any of those 3 Triple Crown race winners. It's going to be somebody different. And I'm asking you, too, to please comment if you do click that category. That's what Transfiguration has done here for us on Twitter. It says Mindframe will be the top pick there other than those 3. Larry chimes in via email, and he says that he's been handicapping for 50 years and learned early on to lay off horses coming off of a maiden or allowance and jumping into Grade 1 stakes. He says if Mindframe didn't take a right turn, Clyde, at the 8th pole, he could have won. Well, yeah, sure he could have. Great race from Mindframe. He said he must be a very good horse. So Mindframe also getting some respect there. Tom in St. Louis says it will be someone else. City of Light wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, and a USA Prep voters vote him 3-year-old champion. Tom in St. Louis. Tom, appreciate the comments there. Keep them coming. You can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And if you don't do social media, email the show like Larry and Tom have done, Mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know which horse is going to be voted 3-year-old champion in your opinion. I laid out earlier, there's a path for fierceness. I'm going to talk more about that when I come back to begin hour number 2. That's right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Busy Saturday morning rolling on, post-Belmont edition, post-Triple Crown edition, if you will, here this morning. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the show, my conversation with Brian Skirka, looking ahead to Haskell Preview Day today at Monmouth Park, or with jockey Agent Kiaran McLaughlin. All you have to do is head back to the website. After I finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern this morning, you can listen to the podcast whenever you have some time. That's horseracingradio.net. And you can do that, too, on every podcast platform. So if you are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google or Podbean, whatever the case might be, however you get your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network, follow us, and you'll get all of our shows every single week here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Lots to get to for the rest of the program, including Danny Gargan coming up in just a few minutes, right around 9:20. Steve Sherman, 9:40. 10 o'clock Eastern, the TwinSpires Triple Play with Ashley Anderson. She will give you 3 races you can bet at TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History segment at 10:20. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. Lots of things to get into with Dale and Tim. And I'm going to ask them the same question I'm asking you this morning about Champion 3-year-old and which path is going to get horses a championship this year. There are several ways that it can happen now in a wide open season. And I open the show by saying it's great when there's a Triple Crown winner. Everybody loves that. It's so elusive, so hard to accomplish. And it's such a jolt in the arm for horse racing when a horse is going for a Triple Crown, because all of a sudden the sport becomes appealing to people that are not necessarily horse racing fans. They're maybe not a fan at all, but they follow other sports. And because the Triple Crown is such a hard-to-achieve sporting accomplishment, the fans of other sports will tune in. So when you look at what's unfolded this year, we don't know the 3-year-old champion yet. We would know it if there was a Triple Crown winner. That horse would be guaranteed to be the 3-year-old champion. But now there's a lot of drama, a lot of intrigue for the second half of the season. And races like the Haskell, the Jim Dandy, the Travers is massive. That's our 4th major, right? I told you in the beginning of the program. Golf is celebrating the U.S. Open this weekend at Pinehurst. And that's one of 4 majors in golf. We have 4 majors too. We have the 3 triple, at least for the 3-year-old division. We have the 3 Triple Crown races, and then we have the Travers. So the Travers is the one now that everybody is going to be targeting. The Pennsylvania Derby is out there. Then you have horses or races for older horses, and we'll start seeing 3-year-olds run in those later in the season too, like the Pacific Classic, for example, at Del Mar, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and then the Breeders' Cup Classic. But there are a plethora of races later in the season which 3-year-olds will then start to tackle older horses. And those races are going to become very weighty in a wide open season. Sierra Leone still has a lot of work to do. Right now, he's not even in the conversation. Right? There's only 3 horses in the conversation for 3-year-old champion right now. And those are the 3 choices I gave you in our poll question this morning. Derby winner Mystic Dan, Preakness winner Seize the Gray, Belmont winner Dornoch. Let's face it, those are the only 3 at this point who can really stake a claim to being 3-year-old champion. Doesn't mean that somebody else can't find their way there. Most of you think it's going to be somebody else. Mindframe had been brilliant coming into the Belmont Stakes. He did not disappoint in the Belmont. Maybe he got tired, right? You go from an allowance win into Grade 1 company. That's a massive step up. And he proved he belongs at that level. Now, did that race take a lot out of him going forward? That's going to be a question. How does he come out of that race? What does he look like in his next start? Where does that next start come? He handled Saratoga. Does it come in the Jim Dandy? That's where Dornoch is pointing. Probably won't go to the Haskell because Todd Pletcher's going to have Fierceness in there. And Fierceness is a horse that I think still has a way to win back-to-back championships. But he's going to the Haskell. He has to win the Haskell. Has to. If he gets beaten the Haskell, it's over. He has to win the Haskell. If he wins the Haskell, doesn't matter what happens the rest of the way because he's already won the Florida Derby, dominated it. Now he's got those 2 Grade 1s on his resume this year. I think then he has to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. And if he does that, he's 3-year-old champion. But he has to win the Haskell first. Same for Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone has his back against the wall now. Coming out of the Derby and that nose defeat to Mystic Dan, we all thought, okay, he looked like the best 3-year-old in that race. He had a troubled trip. He had this. He had that, right? Well, he didn't back it up in the Belmont. He was very disappointing in the Belmont. Finishes 3rd. He was the favorite. He was supposed to win that race. Say what you want about speed favoring tracks and all those types of things. Good horses overcome those kind of things. Not that Sierra Leone isn't a good horse, but he has to learn to run straight. So he's put himself in a position now where every start going forward for him, if he wants to be 3-year-old champion, is crucial. He has to win the Travers. Has to. If he wins the Travers, okay, now he's kind of back in the mix. And now you've got a 4-horse fight to the finish to see who's going to be 3-year-old champion. Maybe 5 if Fierceness can win the Haskell and then go on and win the Breeders' Cup Classic. I'm going to ask Dale and Tim their thoughts on that topic when they join me at 10:30 Eastern, final segment of the show for the always popular I Ask, They Answer. A couple of listener-submitted questions. That is one of them. And we encourage you every week that if you do have a question for Dale and Tim, you want them to debate. Maybe it's an industry topic. Maybe it's a question about a horse. Maybe it's whatever is on your mind. You can submit the question to us here on HRN, on social media, or email the show, and we'll work it into the program for you. I'm also going to ask them, which was the more shocking upset last Saturday at Saratoga? Was it Idiomatic beaten in the Ogden Phipps, or Sierra Leone losing the Belmont? I've got to say Sierra Leone, because I think most of us were expecting, he was the favorite. Most people bet on him. But most people were expecting that he was going to deliver that signature performance that we had been waiting on since the Kentucky Derby. He didn't do it. So to me, I think that was the more shocking of the two. And which horse was the more impressive winner last Saturday on the undercard? Was it National Treasure in the Met Mile, or was it Bookham Dano in the Woody Stevens? Hard to separate those two because they both ran incredibly well. Probably give a slight edge to National Treasure because of the way he opened up and ran away from that field. But, let's face it, outside of White Abario, who didn't really show up, now moving back to the barn of Sappy Joseph Jr., National Treasure was supposed to beat that field the way he did once White Abario didn't run his race. So I'll ask those questions to Dale and Tim, too. Really looking forward to those conversations. This is also Father's Day weekend. And happy Father's Day to all the dads joining me this morning and who join us every single week throughout the year here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. With tomorrow being Father's Day, I'm going to talk to Dale and Tim about some of their favorite equine dads. And I'm talking about the stallions, the sires. Going to ask them which ones are always going to hold a special place in their heart for whatever reason. Whatever the case may be. Maybe Dale has trained a horse that has gone on to be a fantastic stallion. Maybe the guys just really have gravitated toward a stallion that maybe wasn't supposed to be that strong of a stallion prospect, all of a sudden turns into a tremendous sire. So I'll ask them that question, kind of a neat way, a neat angle to look back on or to remember Father's Day here by looking at the equine dads and remembering some of our favorite. So all of that comes up during I Ask, They Answer. Remember to go to our website, horseracingradio.net, sign up for our weekly email newsletters. We send those out twice a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays to keep you in the loop on what's happening with our guest lineup every single week and all the different things happening with our programs here on HRRN. So sign up there. It's all free, and we'll start sending you those via email here on HRN. All right, when I come back, it is time for this week's Kentucky Bred Conversation. You're going to hear from Belmont winning trainer Danny Gargan. Steve Sherman set to come up later in the second hour as well, live from Southern California. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
1-800-GAMBLER.
There are thrills around every turn at Gulfstream Park with heart-pounding horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Join us in 10 Palms Restaurant for an elevated view of the track or take in the races at the Carousel Club, trackside. Come out on Saturdays and enjoy high-quality stakes races and join us all summer long for an expanded event schedule. Simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
At a 16th to go, Joel Rosario begging randomized on the inside of Idiomatic. An absolute thriller. Here it is. Randomized and Idiomatic in a dramatic photo finish in the Ogden Phipps presented by Ford. It's a photo finish.
Randomized, the daughter of Darley Stallion Nyquist, outgamed everyone, including champion Idiomatic, to win the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps on Saturday at Saratoga, a win which makes her your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Nyquist, only Into Mischief and Gunrunner have more Grade 1 winners than Nyquist in 2024. Just imagine. Learn more about Nyquist and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And it's Mindframe and Dornick head-in-head with a furlong left to go. Sierra Leone is closing ground. It's Dornick hugging the rail. Mindframe a little erratic, but he's still right there with Dornick in an absolute thriller. Dornick and Mindframe, it will be Dornick and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Society Man with a nifty move on the far turn pops outside for a try. Houday fights on down toward the rail, next level, fourth, 1 furlong to go. And Society Man has taken charge and kicks away by 2, and it's now by 3. Society Man and Corey Lannery with a perfect ride to score by 3.
Well, trainer Danny Gargan is going to have a difficult time topping his accomplishments from last weekend. A win in the Belmont Stakes followed by Society Man's victory in the Matt Winn at Churchill Downs. Danny grew up in the shadows of those TwinSpires in Louisville, which makes him the ideal choice for this week's Kentucky Bred Conversation, which is presented every week by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development and Breeders' Incentive Funds. I'll welcome Danny in just a minute, but a reminder that awards up to $3,000 a race is available from the Kentucky Breeders' Incentive Fund for winning an allowance or maiden special weight race anywhere in the USA or at Woodbine Racetrack. And awards up to $4,000 a race is available for winning a non-graded stakes anywhere in the USA or at Woodbine. And that, trust me, is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to tell you about more incentives right after this week's Kentucky Bred Conversation with Louisville native Danny Gargan. Well, Danny joined me for a full hour on this past week's Trainer Talk show, and I highly encourage you to go back and listen to that program. It was a fantastic visit. This morning, I bring you about 15 minutes of our visit, and I begin by asking Danny to describe what it was like watching Dornock race through the stretch of the Belmont Stakes.
In mid-stretch, when he dug back in and opened up after being headed, really can't remember much after that, just screaming and yelling. It went to like a little blank for a minute. Me and Randy, there's a great video. I haven't sent it out yet, but we're screaming and hugging, telling each other we love each other, and it was pretty special.
You were very confident coming into the Belmont. What gave you the confidence?
Well, you know, he trains. You're up here watching everybody train. He trains. He's a real strong, powerful horse in the mornings, and he trained unbelievable going into it. Everything was clicking really well, and his last 2 works were phenomenal. Priscilla worked him, and everybody was really confident with how good he was breezing. And we just drew a line through the Derby. You know, he had the 1 hole and got checked the whole way, never really got to run. And we schooled him in the bluegrass to try to toughen him up. And we got him beat in the bluegrass by probably, taking him off the pace and putting him behind horses. And I always knew if he got a clean trip, he'd be tough to beat. He's a fighter.
As they're walking into the gate for the Belmont, you mentioned that clean trip. Are you thinking, okay, Luis, just get him out and he'll do the rest?
I mean, that's all we thought. We were so happy when we he's been plagued his whole career, getting the inside post, the 1, 2, 3. We were so happy that he got the, the 6-0. I was wanting to get the far outside where he could just break out there and come over when he wanted to and no one could get on his outside. But, he broke and he was, he drug Louis up to the front and he looked pretty loaded pretty much the whole way down the backside. I remember, I kind of got up out of my seat midway through the race, and I told Randy, I said, he's got a lot of horse. I said, this is going to get really fun in a minute. I said, he's going to run big today. And he just kept on running that way. I mean, you could tell the whole way down the backside he was sitting there waiting to pass Caesar Gray at any moment. And then at that stage, you just got to hope he can run home faster than the rest of them. And he did. And that's something we're so proud of him. And I'm so happy for everybody involved, all the owners and, my help. Everybody works every day, 7 days a week. And, no one really took a vacation this year because no one wanted to leave him. And then the next day to have it come back in society, man, back up, his race that he ran in the wood, he backed it up and ran big in the Matt Win. And, just a thrilling weekend. I think the only person that had a better weekend this year than me was Kenny McPeak. And he's a great guy. And, I'm going to let Kenny have the best weekend of horse racing, but I'm okay with being second on that list.
Yeah, I was going to start with that, actually, because I was looking at, thinking about the weekend that you had. And it's not just the Belmont. You mentioned the Matt Win. You win 2 greatest stakes, including an American Classic over the course of, just over 24 hours. That's one hell of a weekend, Danny.
Yeah, it's something to be said. And both of them are by Good Magic, who obviously I think is one of the best stallions in horse racing. And I'm blessed to have these 2 horses. And I've been blessed by Good Magic. I've only trained 3 colts. And all 3 of them are graded stake winners now, and 2 of them ran in the Derby. And, I think he's a tremendous sire. And, hopefully in the future we can get us a few more Good Magic colts. But we got a really talented, I think, cup this year coming Philly by Good Magic that'll be fun to watch.
In all sports, Danny, you hear the phrase, you can't teach heart. And I'm sure it's the same for racehorses. It certainly looks like that with Dornoch. How gutsy is this horse?
Well, I can't recall in my lifetime any horse, if you watch the Remsen, which I'd have to get the list of the greatest stakes horses that come out of what they've done after the Remsen. I know there's, Sierra Leone's won 2 graded stakes this year. The Tampa Bay Derby winner, Dornoch's won the Fountain of Youth, and the Belmont. The Remsen gets a bad rap, but I'll tell you, the last few years it's been an unbelievable race. We have to go back. Modonegal won it, and Zandon, he ran in it and he won the Preakness. So, tremendous race. And he got past almost a full length that day. And I can't recall in my lifetime seeing a horse get past a length in a big stake race and come back and win. And then you go to Travers and he got past. Mindframe got ahead in front of him. For him to surge back and be able to regain and keep running straight and dig in like that, it's great.
In the Belmont, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, incredible. So you just mentioned Travers, right? And I know you were referring to the Belmont, but the Travers is the Midsummer Derby. That's one of his goals going forward, isn't it?
Well, that's you want to talk about dreaming. If you can really, I mean, believe me, that would be that's the icing on the cake if he can come back and win it. And he likes this track, and God bless, and hopefully everything goes great. Like I said, the track man here, Glenn, and everybody, David O'Rourke, Juan Dominguez, they do a great job in New York, and they're doing great things right now, keeping the tracks and the facility in perfect condition. I couldn't be happier to be training at Saratoga all summer, and they, just blessed that we're part of this great operation, and have horses that get to train here and develop on these beautiful tracks has just made everything wonderful for all of us.
Danny, let's take this scenario. So you run in the Bluegrass, you come back in the Kentucky Derby, you outlined how things didn't go his way that day. You decide to skip the Preakness, point for the Belmont. That works out beautifully. What's your plan now going forward? How do you handle the Belmont winner from here?
He's come out of the race really well. We haven't taken him back to the track. He'll go, we'll start back training him tomorrow. And it's just one of those things. He come out of it unbelievable. He's acting like he hasn't run. He's just walking around like a monster. And And everybody knows I don't like to run back fast. I take my time. There's a big chance we see him show up in the Jim Dandy. We get to walk him over right out of the stall. The Haskell's an option, but sometimes Monmouth gets really hot, and you got to ship over there. And I'm kind of leaning towards just staying right here. A lot of the owners live here. Larry Conley's got a house right across the street. Randy Hill's got one down the road, and probably if we see him before the Travers, it's most likely going to be here in the Jim Dandy. And I've been lucky enough won the Jim Dandy before, and I don't know why it's not a Grade 1. It should be, but we'll have to. If the Preakness can be a Grade 1, why can't the Jim Dandy? I can't figure that out. But more horses go from the Derby to the Jim Dandy in just about any race. So we'll just try to figure it out here in the next few weeks. But it's that's probably, if I had to say where we're going to run, I'm probably thinking if he gets a race before the Travers, it's going to be the Jim Dandy.
Talk a little bit more about that relationship with Randy Hill and with Larry Conley.
Well, Larry's I've trained for Larry for 3 years, and they're new in the game. It's a partnership. There's a lot of guys in it. Keith Mason and him founded it, and there's probably 25 or 30 different partners. They're all fun. They're party. They have fun, and they were ready. They got a tent set up and open bar. Win or lose, they were going to party just because they got there. And it's been we've had a lot of success, and it's been a great run for us. And this is I don't have any 2-year-olds this year for them, but I'm sure in the future we'll have more. But it's been a great run. We did great together, and I wish them all the best going forward. And they're a new partnership, and it's like I said, it's been a crazy good run. I've won the Remsen twice for them, now to win the Belmont for them, and the Fountain of Youth, and the Matt Winn. And it's a small select horses. They buy pieces. They don't own all of a horse. They buy in on the horses. Usually, sometimes up to 50%. A lot of times 33 up 25. So it's been a great run, and they're great guys and great to be around. And I wish them all the best going forward. And I mean, what do I say about Randy? He's been with me. I think my first Greatest Stake winner, Randy owned it. Filly named Divine Miss Gray. I think that's my first Greatest Stake winner. They brought it up on another show and other things. And Randy's been with me so long, and he's super loyal. Me and George Weaver, and God bless George being okay after that crazy situation he was going through. Me and George have been friends since I'm 16 years old, and we get along good. We all hang out in the box together. We have lunch all the time together. Randy's fun to be around. He's just like a normal guy who you can argue with, and the next day you move on and give each other a hug. I mean, I feel like Randy's like I feel like one of his adopted kids. Me and George are like his children. His son, little Randy's lovely, and I just don't know. I can't say enough about how much he's been there for me throughout my training career, and I don't think I don't ever see not training for Randy my whole life. I think as long as Randy owns horses, I think me and George will train them, and we're blessed to be in that situation.
Danny, you keep taking him back to the Kentucky Derby like you are every few years, then why not?
He deserves to be there. I mean, he taught me something that's I'm never going to forget in horse racing, and it's the best advice any owner could ever have or trainer is when we're going to buy a lot of horses. He's the reason I'm buying two young horses, and him and Dean Reeves made me not stop claiming. I still claim one here and there, but made me really focus on the young horses. It was their decision a couple of years ago, and about 4 years ago they said, let's buy you some young horses and give you a chance to get us in these big races. You deserve to be here. And it's worked out for me and both of them. One of them, Dean won the Matt Winn and Randy winning the Belmont, and just those guys supporting me has made everything in the world for me. And you got to pinch yourself when you have people like the Reeves, Patty and Dean, and Randy and Marina. I trained for Randy's wife, her personal horse, and it's you wake up every day with security. You're not worried. You have such wonderful people that are always going to be there and be with you and support you. I mean, Dean hugged me when I won the Belmont and told me he's so proud of me. And later I talked to him, and he, it gives me goosebumps that I'm this blessed to have these people to share this with.
Yeah, Patty and Dean Reeves, two of the greatest people you're ever going to meet in any sport or any walk of life, and to be associated with them as a trainer has to be really special.
Oh, it's I feel like one of their kids, their son is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and they're Vito and Mark Pine and Jason Worth. I mean, Jason's he's bigger than life. Vito, he couldn't make it. He had some things for his family. Vito he's so fun to watch. When we win a big race, he just cries and hugs you. And I mean, all the guys involved in this horse and everybody involved, they're all wonderful people in their own rights. And, I just don't know, it's just, and like I said, it's you got to pinch yourself when, everybody's got your back and they love you and they treat you like family. And, Randy told me if I ever won a Triple Crown race, he's going to give me his Maserati. So, or his Aston Martin. So, I haven't gotten the keys yet, but we're going to tease him about that for a while.
Hold him to that. Hold him to that, Danny. Don't let him off the hook.
I can't afford the insurance on that car. But he's, they did a great thing. All of them got together and decided they're going to give me the Belmont Trophy, and they're going to have replicas made of it. And that's a big thing there. I'd like to thank everybody, Larry, Mark, Jason, Vito, and Randy for, that being able to have something like that. It's pretty special, and I'll put it, my father won the Oaks, and I'll put it next to his trophy.
Wow. Man, I love it. Danny Gargan with me here on Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton. Danny, you mentioned the name Jason Worth, and he got a lot of airtime on Fox during the coverage afterwards, and rightfully so. He's a guy that played many, many years, had a great career in the major leagues, and now you're training for a guy like this who is a part owner of Dornoch. What's it been like being around him and getting to know him?
I mean, I don't know a lot of pro athletes. We don't meet them in my world. And Jason's a normal person. He's just like one of us. I mean, him, his family, his boys, his wife, he's just a wonderful person. And he's going to be a great ambassador for horse racing. I mean, it's a funny story. One day he flies his own jet. It's crazy, right? And he flew down to Florida, and he had a filly that won a stake at Gulfstream that he owned part of. And he told me he's going to go over to the barn, and I was actually deep-sea fishing. I said, go on over there. And then I get a text later. He said, what's the story with this Thanos? And I said, I'm thinking, what was he? He says, can I buy part of him? And I said, well, you can have all of him. He just can't never leave the barn. He says, well, what do you mean he can't leave the barn? I said, that's a stable pony. He said, oh, my God, I love him. So his favorite horse in the barn is the stable pony besides Dornoch. I mean, he loves horses. He walks in the barn. We gets a big handful of peppermints, and he just loves petting them and being around them. He worked at a farm as a kid, fell in love with horses as a kid, and, baseball took up his whole life. When you're a pro athlete, it's a full-time job. And, I think this horse has brought something back to him, a rush that he used to get. He said it to me, and I don't know. I've never won a baseball game or a big-time, he says it's just as exciting winning the Belmont as it was winning the World Series. And I mean, that's something that he said he was missing, and horse racing's brought that rush back to him that he loved. And I wish a lot of pro athletes would get involved, because if winning the Belmont's like winning the World Series or a Super Bowl, those guys all need to try it. It's something that horse racing needs. Horse racing needs people like him that stand out there and tell everybody that it's one of the greatest sports on earth, because it is. And we need other athletes and people to be good ambassadors and to share that with each other.
What a wonderful experience and a great journey, not just for Danny, but for the entire team surrounding Belmont winner Dornoch. My thanks to the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development and Breeders Incentive Funds for making these Kentucky Bred Conversations possible every single week. And remember that the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development and Breeders Incentive Funds provides awards up to $5,000 and $7,500 for winning a Grade 1, Grade 2, or Grade 3 race anywhere in the USA and in multiple countries, and awards of $200,000 are allocated to the top 20 claiming horses in Kentucky with the most claiming wins in the Bluegrass State. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win with Kentucky Breds. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for Danny Gargan and for that entire team, and I'm so glad that Danny took time to visit with me. Again, you can catch that hour podcast on our website right now, Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton. It's an enjoyable hour, so treat yourself to that when you do get some time. Coming up next, I get to welcome Steve Sherman, the trainer who has been part of the fabric of Golden Gate in Northern California for a long time. He'll share his favorite memories of Golden Gate, and he'll talk about the ever-changing landscape of California racing. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's Haskell Preview Day, Saturday, June 15th at Monmouth Park. 4 stakes on the road to Haskell Day, including the Naira Bets Pegasus Stakes, the Grade 3 Eatontown Turf, the Grade 3 Monmouth Stakes Turf, and the Grade 3 Salvatore Mile. And don't forget the $1 Haskell Preview Day feeder on horsetourneys.com using all Monmouth Park races. Top 5 finishers earn a seat into the $1,000 Haskell Challenge Handicapping Contest, which is a live money contest offering NHC seats, BCBC seats, and cash. Attending on site, lock in your odds with fixed odds wagering at Monmouth Park Racetrack.
Hey, if your horse struggles with ulcers from time to time, I've got some good news for you. Reline GI by Haggard has a new improved formula, and scientific studies show that it definitely improves gut health. So what's new about Reline GI? It's made with a new beta-glucan that stimulates the immune system to work on targeted areas of a horse's stomach. Plus, there's also a new price that can save you nearly $100 per gallon. Visit ResolveVet.com to learn more about new Reline GI. Better science, better formula, better gut support.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Amanda Rose, Vandalia, top anticipation, Airkita ridden along, and then it's Hollywood Mistress, followed up by a Crown for Kitten on the grandstand side as they run down to the final furlong. Amanda Rose, Vandalia, but a Crown for Kitten, as well as top anticipation are closing in tandem as they run to the 16th pole. It's a Crown for Kitten who strikes the front inside the 16th pole. A Crown for Kitten. Give Espinosa 2 on the day. Second goes to Amanda Rose over top anticipation. Then it was Hollywood Mistress.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on this Saturday morning. Good race there by a Crown for Kitten, getting the victory in race 5 at Golden Gate last weekend. That was the final winner that trainer Steve Sherman would saddle at Golden Gate, and there have been many. And Steve, a native of Northern California, is somebody who is part of the fabric of Golden Gate, which is no longer in existence. That is very sad. And Steve is now having to deal with the ever-changing climate of racing in California. He is with me now to share some of his favorite memories of Golden Gate and fill you in on what's ahead for him and for his team. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going out there?
Everything is great. Really appreciate you taking the time. You know, earlier, and I want to get to this Golden Gate situation here in just a minute, but earlier I played a couple of race calls that I think you're going to really enjoy. I played the call of California Chrome winning the Derby 10 years ago and then taking the Preakness. And I just want to start there. But can you believe it's been a decade since California Chrome?
Yeah, I can't believe it, man. It's been a very, very quick 10 years. You know, it was a lot of fun. It was a ride of a lifetime from, my family, and we're just very gracious to what that horse has done for us with the accomplishments he did, abroad, basically. He's a great shipper. He went to a lot of different racetracks and ran really big races. So we were very fortunate.
He had his own fan club. They called them the Chromies, and they were very passionate about California Chrome. Do you still get people coming up to you and asking you to tell stories about Chrome?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a never-ending thing, especially it really pops up when, the Triple Crown is going on, because we went to it. You go, hey, which one did you like? Which one did you have the best time at? So you just kind of explain to them what was going on, and it was it's definitely a lot of fun to talk about. So we all have a good time talking about it.
Yeah. Do you ever go back and watch any of his replays of those races or any of his other big wins?
You know, I did that. I did it about 3 weeks ago. Now that you said it, just before why they were running the Derby and the Preakness, and I said, man, let me go back and watch some of these races that the horse ran. And he ran some really, really, really strong races for my dad and brother. They did a great job with that horse.
Yep, yeah, it was a family affair. You were part of the team too, and your brother Alan, your dad Art, who was the trainer of record, the head trainer. You guys all spent a lot of time with Chrome, and boy, it was special 10 years ago. Not quite as special last weekend at Golden Gate. A much different mood as that racetrack, historic racetrack, closed its doors for the final time. Just talk about what Golden Gate meant to you, your family, and to racing in California.
Well, it was a big Bay Area deal, especially the last, 14 or 15 years, since when Bay Meadows closed. So that was kind of the signature track in the Bay Area. And it's just a shame that, that it looks like it's gone away. It's been part of the Bay Area for a long time. And unfortunately, that East Bay's had a lot of problems with, sports teams staying there right now and sporting events staying there. The Raiders left and the Warriors left and the A's are on their way out, so it's been a tough spot to keep pro sporting events for some reason. I don't know why. It's a great fan base and everything, but I guess things are changing, I'm not sure why.
Yeah. When you think about Golden Gate and your time there and growing up in that area, Steve, what are some of your favorite memories?
Well, I'm in a Bay Area homer. Grew up in San Mateo, lived 5 minutes from the racetrack. So, I've been a Bay Area guy my whole life. Traveled to Golden Gate for the last 40 years, and I've just totally enjoyed myself. Won a lot of good races there when I was assistant for my dad. The one thing that really sticks out to me, I'll never forget. It was a bobblehead day for the horse Lost in the Fog. Really nice horse. And we ran a horse in there called Carthage, and we beat that horse that day. We were lucky enough to beat him. And we got booed when we came back to the winner's circle in the stake race. And I thought that was kind of funny. I said, man, Dad, this is the first time we've ever been booed winning a race. Usually people are happy, they cash in their tickets on you. But, oh, man, we weren't very well liked that day. So that was kind of a funny point. But we won a lot of nice races there. It's just, kind of our home away from home. We always thought that, growing up in San Mateo, Bay Meadows was our home, but we stay half the year at Golden Gate too. So, we were there, throughout the years, and same barn 91 all these years. And, it's just kind of a shame, it's just kind of a bummer. I just wish kind of all sides could get together and work things out. But I guess, unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So
yeah,
as a result, they closed it. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is a bummer, and it's never easy to lose any racetrack, right? I mean, Arlington Park closing its doors and now no longer in existence, not even a structure there anymore. Those types of things are really hard, and they're hard on the horsemen who have supported the racetrack and made a living at those facilities for many, many years, just like you have at Golden Gate. What's next now for you and for the team?
Well, right now I'm at Pleasanton as we speak, training horses right now. A beautiful day over here, and we're just going to stay here, and hopefully it works. I'm going to go to Del Mar this summer. I applied for 15 stalls, so we're going to probably give that Del Mar meet a run, and also be stabled here at Pleasanton and run here, and run throughout the fairs all summer, and then definitely come back from Del Mar to run on this. They have a fall meet here from October to December. So, looking forward to that, but that's kind of how my summer looks right now. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of a new adventure.
Yeah. I mean, the ever-changing landscape of California racing. How challenging is it, Steve, to be a horseman there, running your own business as a trainer, and to have to be dealing with all of these things? I'd imagine it's a gigantic challenge.
Tough. It really is tough. There's just so many rules here right now when it comes to training horses. It's just rules upon rules, and like you said, now the landscape and the whole thing's changing, and it's always nice to be settled in one spot, so you can get the lay of the land and figure things out from there. That's what was so good about having those the Golden Gate, nice big racetrack. You knew you were going to be there, race there, 7, 8, 9 months a year there. So it made it nice. But now, everything's kind of new. We're going to be kind of a lot of road warriors. You got Fresno for a month. You got, here they're going to be racing 4 weeks. You got 4 weeks weekends at Fresno. You got another 3 weekends at Sacramento, another 3 weekends up at Santa Rosa. So, there's going to be a lot of moving. A lot of moving this year. A lot of different things that, that you just got to kind of overcome and it can work out. It's just got to go with the flow and do the best you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of let me lay it out this way, I guess, for our listeners, and tell me if I'm completely off base here. But, I think Southern California, Santa Anita, Del Mar have always been considered the major leagues of horse racing in California. And a track like Golden Gate and even Bay Meadows, when it was running, would, even though there were nice horses there, they oftentimes weren't the same stock that we saw in Southern California. So maybe like a AA or AAA type of caliber of competition there. And now you and everybody else that was in Northern California have to find a way to either increase stock or to compete with some of the major league talent in Southern California day in and day out. And I can imagine that's very difficult.
Oh, it's tough. I mean, it's so different. And you hit it. Your analogy was perfect. We are the AAA. There's no doubt about it. And they are the majors.
Yep.
And, we have some categories that fit really good down there, though. I've always felt like our $10,000 to our $25,000, $32,000 claimers, hit hard down there with their level too, because those are our better horses, and those quite aren't their better horses. They're their lower end horses. So I found that we can usually compete there. What we get crushed in a lot of the times is the stakes and the allowances. We just get ate up by those better horses down there.
Yeah.
And the maiden races too. It's just very hard. You got to have a special horse to go down there and win, a maiden allowance race. Calbred, you got a little better chance. But when you got open, those open races, when you got to run against Bob and, paying a lot of money for those horses, and it just makes it very tough,
Yeah.
But I've always
Phil
found
D'Amato.
that you can, exactly. Phil D'Amato on the turf, he's getting all those Europeans and things like that. So it's a tough place. It's a tough landscape. And I just feel like, but there are levels there that you can compete at, and I think you can take advantage of it if you get if you can bring down the right caliber of horses there. I've always thought that the claiming was good in between those levels.
Yeah. How many horses do you have in training, Steve?
I have 35 right now.
Okay. So your personal approach, it sounds to me like focus on those types of races that you feel like your horses fit, and let's see if we can do some good there, and then kind of move around and try to win some races at the fairs and things like that. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna like I said, we're gonna hit Del Mar, and I'm gonna probably take my better horses down there, and probably some turf horses, because we don't really. That kind of what hurts us right now too. We don't really have any turf till Santa Rosa, which is 7-8 weeks away still, 9 weeks away. So, if you have a turf horse, you definitely have to go down south to run them right now. So, but I mean, I think that's how we're going to do it. We're just going to kind of pick our spots here on the fair meets and at Del Mar, and probably won't come back with a lot of the horses I take down there. And I'm sure they're going to claim a bunch of them, but hopefully we can restock and claim some ourselves, and then we can balance it out. So that's kind of the plan.
Talking with trainer Steve Sherman here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Remembering Golden Gate, Steve, as you heard him say, a Northern California native, and has been at Golden Gate for a very long time. What was your first year training there, Steve?
I started working for my dad there in '82. So
okay.
We've been here, been there ever since then. I was my dad's assistant for a long time. I kind of went on my own probably like 15 years ago. And, just love the Bay Area. I love everything about it. Great place to live. It's just too bad that, eventually it came to this. It's, hopefully not too many more of them are sold, because we're running out of racetracks up here.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. One of my favorite events every single year, and I always look forward to this race, was the El Camino Real Derby, which was the major Derby prep race, Kentucky Derby prep race held at Golden Gate every year. And I remember my favorite running of the race, and I'm going to ask you yours, your favorite El Camino memories here in just a minute, but mine came in 1998. I was a huge fan of Event of the Year, the Golden Eagle Farm color bearer, and Russell Bays was aboard. Jerry Hollendorfer was the trainer, but I think that was my favorite horse to win the El Camino Real over the years, was Event of the Year.
Yeah, that was a really good horse that Jerry. I think he was on his way to the Derby, or did he get hurt at the Derby or something? He didn't get quite the run there.
Yeah, I don't think he ran there. I think he came to Turfway for it was at the, I don't know if they called it the Spiral then or whatever the name of the race was back in '98. But he came to Turfway, I remember.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he
was
went out to the
back
Derby
that way. I don't know if he was ever going to run on the Derby or not, but I know he was back east at that time. He was a nice horse.
Yeah,
I just talked to Jerry a couple of days ago, in fact. So he was actually congratulating me for being the leading trainer at Golden Gate the last meet. So
fantastic.
That was nice of him.
Yeah.
But probably one of my things that I like, I got to saddle a lot of. I was fortunate to help Bob Baffert, and he would send up a lot of horses for that race, and got to watch some of those horses run, and so I was fortunate to be able to help his team out, which is always nice. I think I ran second maybe in it one year, with a horse that I had. But yeah, that's always been a kind of the start of the 3-year-old season to get things underway, in California.
Yep.
So it was always nice to kind of get things started here, and then you'd have your your better races would come, obviously down at Santa Anita as the season went on. So it's a good prep race if you really wanted to kind of get your horse. If you thought your horse was a little bit green and still needed some racing, was always a good place to, stick a horse in there and start getting them a little education before those bigger races were coming up.
People might forget about some of the big-name horses that won the El Camino Real back in the day. You had Tank's Prospect and Snow Chief and Ruhlman. Tabasco Cat was winner of the race in 1994 for the coach, D. Wayne Lucas. Cavanier for Bob Baffert won the race.
That's right. And the local horse up in was bred up there in Sebastopol, I believe.
Yeah.
Walters. So kind of a Bay Area horse in itself there. But yeah, I always thought that was always a good race to have. It was a good stepping stone. It just kind of got things, I think the timing was good for it because it was before all the races started in LA. So you could, like I said, I always thought it was a good, especially if you just thought, like I said, if your horse needed just a few races to maybe start coming into himself a little bit, it was always a good preparation. But you're right, a lot of good horses did win that race.
Steve, what are you going to miss most about Golden Gate?
Well, I miss. I've made a lot of friends there since I've lived over there, and I hope all of them come over to Pleasanton. I know they're probably not going to come quite as much as they did over there, but just miss the racing. I like the Tapeta. I like to train on it. They had a good turf course. It was just a good place to race. The weather is always great. It rarely gets real hot there. I think it's probably you can't ask for a better place to race in the summertime when we were there, training and stuff. It was just so nice. We'd get the fog in there. The weather was just perfect for training horses there. I just thought that the horses always did good there in the summertime. A lot of hot places here in the summer, but Golden Gate always remained cool being along the water there. So that was nice. And it was just basically my home away from home. Spent a lot of time there. It's I don't live too far from it. I drive by it every as I come to Pleasant, I drive by it every day. So it's just a shame. But hey, never say never. Until I see the wrecking balls start wrecking it down, I'm gonna hope for a long shot to come in. You never know. Maybe something might happen there one day.
Amen to that. Yeah, because it leaves a huge void, not just in California, but in racing, in the sport of thoroughbred racing. It's a massive loss. And, Steve, listen, I can't thank you enough for spending a little time with me here this morning. All the best this summer and into the fall. And say hello to your dad. Say hello to your brother, Alan. I know he'll be joining you as part of the team at Del Mar. So go get it done and keep it rolling.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks. Talk to you anytime. Appreciate
it. You got it, buddy. Steve Sherman, as you heard him say, leading trainer at Golden Gate, does a fantastic job. And now hoping for a miracle, hoping for that 99-1 shot, the Arkong-like savior to come in to Golden Gate. Doesn't look likely, but hey, it happens, right? It happens. All right, when I come back, going to take a look at a few historical dates in racing history and get you set for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Quick update on the poll question, asking you which horse will be voted 3-year-old champion at year's end. Will it be one of the Triple Crown race winners, Mystic Dan, Seize the Gray, or Dornoch, or is it somebody else? And so far, 60% of you responding and saying it's going to be somebody other than those 3 Triple Crown race winners. SS says out of the 3 Triple Crown race winners, whichever one wins the biggest 3-year-old race coming up, any 3-year-old will have to win the Travers or the Haskell and win the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile or the Breeders' Cup Classic. You can keep those comments coming at HRRN on X, formerly Twitter. And you can do it too, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Time to take a look at some historical dates in racing history as they apply to this particular weekend and this particular day. Happy anniversary to Hall of Fame trainer Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons. It was on this day in 1963 that Sonny Jim stepped away from racing and retired, also known as Mr. Fitz. He trained such outstanding runners as Nashua, Bold Ruler, Johnstown, and Triple Crown winners Gallant Fox and his son Omaha. It was on June 15th, 1972, in preparation for his July 4th debut that Secretariat worked 5 furlongs from the starting gate in 1 minute and 1/5 seconds. Again, that June 15th, 1972. And on this day, I love this one. On this day in 1977, June 15th, 1977, future rivals Affirmed and Alydar met for the first time in the Youthful Stakes at Belmont. Affirmed triumphed over Alydar that day, who ended up finishing 5th. And, of course, Affirmed, as we know, defeated Alydar in all 3 Triple Crown races. Pretty cool stuff there, June 15th, 1977. Been a busy first 2 hours. Plenty more to come in hour number 3. Going to tell you about that when I come back here in just a moment. Don't forget, too, if you missed any portion of the show so far, there's been plenty. Brian Skirka, Kiaran McLaughlin, Danny Gargan, Steve Sherman in the previous segment. Check out the podcast after I finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum coming up next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
And Big Brown to catch Krogensky on the outside alongside. And then comes Silver Tree and Chucky's Big Brown digs back for all he's got here. Krogensky cannot get by him, and Big Brown wins. He's won the Monmouth Stakes.
They're at the top of the stretch. Acclimate trying to finish the job, and he's still in front by 3. Astronaut, Red King in the center, and Ward and Jerry a 16th to go, and Ricky Gonzalez on a joyride in the San Juan Capistrano. He's a 2-time winner. Acclimate, coast to coast, the easiest of wins.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
3/4 and 110 flat, and Notional has taken the lead from Gotcha Gold with a furlong to run. Gotcha Gold trying to fight back though. Notional still there. Gotcha Gold's not done yet. He's battling on from the rail. It's Notional and Gotcha Gold. Notional's got the lead, and he's getting away now. And Notional and Joe Bravo win the Salvatore Mile.
And it's Mindframe and Dornick head-in-head with a furlong left to go. Sierra Leone is closing ground. It's Dornick hugging the rail. Mindframe a little erratic, but he's still right there with Dornick in an absolute thriller. Dornick and Mindframe, it will be Dornick and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Now, here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of the Equine Forum on this Saturday morning, all presented by our friends at TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you along for the ride as we have been looking back on last weekend's Belmont Stakes, looking ahead to this afternoon's Haskell Preview Day at Monmouth, and, of course, remembering Golden Gate as racing there came to an end last weekend. Busy third hour of the show. Begins every week with the TwinSpires Triple Play. This week, Ashley Anderson will join me to do the honors. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim. We'll look back on the Belmont and talk about a few other topics related to thoroughbred racing in that very popular segment to end the show. Don't forget, if you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the program, including that interview with Danny Gargan, looking back on Dornock and what that moment was like for him last Saturday, all you have to do is head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast of this program and all of our shows on our website whenever you have some time, and you can do that too on every podcast platform. Time now to begin hour number 3, and we do it with this week's edition of the TwinSpires Triple Play. And as I mentioned, Ashley Anderson joins me here with 3 races for you to keep an eye on later today. Ashley, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
How'd you make out on the Triple Crown? Did you crush him?
I wish I could say that. You know, it's funny with Dornock. This is a horse that I had been playing against for a while and had a weird feeling with the Belmont, but I actually went with Seize the Gray. I knew it was going to be a front runner. And when I saw Dornoch coming closer and closer to Seize the Gray, I knew I was not going to get the win that day, and I was going to finally see Dornoch get another win after I had played against him so many times. So kind of a little joke that we have at work that I always fade Dornoch. But in the Belmont, I even said it to my coworkers. I was like, I think you might get the win here, but I'm not going to be bold enough to say it after all of these races where I've played against him.
Right.
So
Yeah. So you didn't use him at all.
I'm sorry?
You didn't use him at all in your wagers with the
I
Belmont.
didn't use him at all, no. I just kind of tipped off one of my coworkers, and then I went with Seize the Gray. Thought, he's the hot horse. Didn't work out for me. Not quite the best Belmont for me. I've usually done pretty well in the Preakness and Belmont, but, yeah, this year it was an interesting Triple Crown for sure.
Yeah. Again, 3 different winners of the Triple Crown races again here in 2024. Kind of sets us up for an exciting second half of the season. And I guess if you're looking at like a 3-year-old champion, it's definitely going to be exciting. If you have a horse that sweeps the Triple Crown, that's already a foregone conclusion at this point in the season. So the second half of the year, every time that these 3-year-olds meet in any stakes race, it's going to be almost everything on the line every time they get together.
Right. It's really a toss-up right now. I don't know who to expect to win it at the end of the year, but, Sierra Leone, too, has kind of been a little bit of a disappointment. I love that horse, but in these big races, he keeps getting beaten and not staying completely straight when he's running down the stretch. So We'll see if he improves later this year.
The Travers is going to be enormous this summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. A lot of great racing coming up, including Haskell Preview Day at Monmouth later this afternoon. And you heard from Brian Skirka earlier in the program talking about that big day and looking ahead to Haskell Day. Now we're going to focus on 3 races taking place this afternoon at other tracks that you can wager on at TwinSpires. Let's start with Belmont at the Big A. Belmont at Aqueduct will go to the featured event. The Grade 2 Bed of Roses carries a purse of $200,000 for the fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. It's race number 10, 7 furlongs on the main track. Who do you like in the Bed of Roses, Ashley?
All right, so in the Bed of Roses, I'm going with number 8, Sheeta Booty. Gotta like that name. This is 1 of 2 for Chad Brown in this field. And this is a 4-year-old filly who won 2 back at today's distance of 7 furlongs at Aqueduct in the Grade 3 Distaff Stakes. She was then 3rd in the Grade 2 Ruffian, racing at a mile. Now she's slightly cutting back in distance. And the thing I also like about Sheeta Booty, at Aqueduct, she has 3 wins and 2 third-place finishes from 5 career starts. So she really likes this track. And in her last 2, she's posted triple-digit late pace figures. If you look at Bristnet speed figures, has a really good closing kick. Her 99 Bristnet speed figure overall in her last race is tied for the highest last race speed rating. And she's got Dylan Davis aboard, a 21% winner in sprints. He's retaining the mount. Chad Brown is also winning at a high rate this meet. There's another in the field for Chad Brown. It's a seed who's got Irad Ortiz Jr. Probably will take a little bit more money with that jockey aboard, but I think Sheeta Booty can get it done as a late runner in this field.
This is kind of a wide open race, and it should be a pretty good betting race. The morning line favorite, Flying Connection, is just 3-1 on the morning line, so very much a lukewarm morning line favorite. Rob Atras is going to train Flying Connection, previously in the barn of Todd Fincher. Ricardo Santana Jr. has the assignment there. Obviously, you're playing against Flying Connection, but do you give her any chance at all?
So the Flying Connection, she just raced at 7 furlongs in the Derby City Distaff. This was on the Kentucky Derby undercard. Finished 3rd in that race and had been racing farther in her previous starts. I think maybe she likes a little bit longer distance, so I'm going to try to play against here. I really liked her in the Apple Blossom as a huge long shot. Finished 2nd to Dare Manor. But here at 7 furlongs, I'm not sure that's her distance. She's only tried it 1 time, finished 3rd. I think she likes farther. So, yeah, I'm playing against her here.
One of the things I really do like about Sheeta Beauty, your top pick in here, is that you look at the times that Dylan Davis has been aboard her, and he's back aboard in this race this afternoon too. She responds to him. She runs for him. Not that she doesn't for other jockeys, but they just seem to have this chemistry together, and I think that's huge. We saw it with Luis Saez in the Belmont Stakes last weekend. I think that's a big factor when you're handicapping these races.
Right. With Dylan Davis, she's got 4 starts and she's won 3 of them. And then it was, last out where she finished 3rd with Dylan Davis, but racing a mile. So, they had actually won at a mile last year in 2 starts together. But, yeah, he's just seems like the right rider for her. So, I mean, she's had Jose Ortiz aboard, but I think Chad Brown put the right jockey on Sheeta Booty. So I like the chances here.
In that race last time out where she was 3rd, you look at who was 2nd in that race, 3/4 of a length ahead of her. That was Randomized, who just came back and won the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps last weekend. So she's been running with some really tough competition.
Yeah, like seeing that key race right there.
Yeah, huge key race. All right, so Sheeta Beauty, your top pick in the Bed of Roses, the 10th race at Aqueduct. Belmont at Aqueduct is what the meet is officially called. That's race number 10, 6-1 on the morning line. Let's move to Churchill Downs. Night racing under the lights. You got to love it. First post is 6 o'clock Eastern for race number 1. We'll start with race number 3, which is the race you've chosen for the second leg of the TwinSpires Triple Play. 6:56 Eastern is the post for this allowance race. 5.5 furlongs on the turf. How'd you see it, Ashley?
So I did pick an allowance race for you because we have a money back offer. I'll just mention real quick, you get up to $10 back on your first win bet in this race if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd. We have this promo in race 3, race 7, and race 8. So with race 3, it's a 5.5 furlong allowance on the turf for fillies and mares, and I'm going to go for a little bit better price here at 9-2. Nikki 9 Doors, number 6 in the program. This is a 3-year-old filly who won 2 back going gate to wire and posted an 89 Bristnet speed figure, tied for the highest turf speed figure among this field. Moving up in class, was 7th in the Mamzelle last out when moving up in class, and picking up Jose Ortiz here for this race, an 18% winner on the turf and this meet. So I like the rider switch. She also has a bullet 4 furlong workout on June 1st, and her trainer, Chris Davis, is doing really well at Churchill. I'll look for her to get the early lead. And if you look at the track bias, these early pace setter types are winning at a very high rate. Now, the morning line favorite, Cloud Walker, is a closer. We haven't seen a closer win at this distance on the turf this meet at Churchill. So I'm going to play against the morning line favorite and go for this early pace setter in the field.
Another solid price. Nikki 9 Doors at odds of 9-2 in race number 3 at Churchill. Race 7 is the final leg you have chosen, Ashley, and it figures to be another good betting race, and you're going to go for some value in this one, I believe. This is the Chorleywood Overnight Stakes with a purse of $175K, mile and 3/8 on the turf. 9:05 Eastern is the post. Who wins race number 7 at Churchill tonight?
All right, so this one is another money back offer race that we have here. So if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd, you get your money back. So I went with a long shot here for you to consider playing in number 9, Winning Spirit. Now this is a little bit of a dark horse here because this horse has raced overseas, coming over to the U.S. for the first time for Christophe Clement. But Christophe Clement does really well with these shippers to the U.S., one's at a 19% rate with the U.S. shippers, and also a 24% rate with horses making their first start with the trainer. Now, Winning Spirit is coming off a 9-month layoff, but again, looking at trainer stats, Christophe Clement does very well with horses coming off lengthy layoffs of 90 or more days, one's at a 20% rate there. Joel Rosario is picking up the mount. He does pretty well on turf as well. And looking at the potential pace setup here, now we have a morning line favorite who I think is vulnerable in Bold Act. This is another European shipper that's raced in the U.S. 2 times now and has failed as a favorite in his last 2. And he raced at Churchill Downs in the Grade 3 Louisville, was beaten by Segoy, who is in this field as well. Segoy got away with setting very, very slow early fractions in the Louisville and really probably doesn't have a lot of speed signed on here to contend with, so might be able to get away with that slow early pace. But I think Winning Spirit we might see try to go for the early lead here. So if that happens, I'm looking for Winning Spirit to try to upset the field at 12-1.
When we see horses come from Europe or overseas from other countries racing here in the States, there aren't specific running lines in a lot of those cases. So how do you determine, Ashley, what type of running style this horse has? Is it as simple as just going back and watching replays? Is that the only way to really do it?
So you have to, a lot of times, rely on these replays. Sometimes with Brisnet, you'll get some notes on how they ran the race, but, really the best way to gauge is to look at the race replay. Now with Winning Spirit, this horse has been racing around today's distance, and I also look at the kind of competition that these European shippers have faced. Last out, raced at 1.5 miles, a little bit slightly farther than today's distance, won by 3 1/4 lengths, so that's a very good margin to see. That was on soft turf, but then you look at, he's actually run best on soft turf, and we're probably going to get firm turf today, but he faced Group 1 and Group 2 company in his last 2 and ran pretty well against, tougher company, faced a field of 22 back. So I'm looking at, field size, I'm looking at competition, and a lot of times it is a little bit of a guessing game, but if you go back and look at those race replays, that's the best way, I would say, to gauge what kind of runner you're going to get in this field. Again,
right,
too, with a first start with a trainer, with Christophe Clement, he might shake it up, too.
Yep, there you go. Ashley Anderson here with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Let's recap before I let you go, Ashley. We'll start with the 10th race at Aqueduct. That is race number 8. Sheeta Beauty is your top pick in there. In race 10, the Bed of Roses, 6-1 on the morning line. Race 3 at Churchill, you'll go with number 6, Nikki 9 Doors at odds of 9-2. And in race 7 at Churchill Downs, number 9, Winning Spirit, big price on the morning line at odds of 12-1. And that is Ashley Anderson's TwinSpires Triple Play for this morning. You can bet those races any way you like. Just make sure you're doing it at TwinSpires. And, Ashley, you mentioned that money back guarantee. I love those types of bets because it allows you to maybe take a little bit of a shot with a horse. And if the horse wins, great. If the horse finishes second or third, okay, you get your money back.
Yeah, that's how I see it. So that's why I'm giving you that 12-1 in race 7.
Well done. Good luck, Ashley. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds good.
All right, Ashley Anderson with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Coming up next, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. And I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin is still ahead at 10:30 Eastern. Lots to come on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are thrills around every turn at Gulfstream Park with heart-pounding horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Join us in 10 Palms Restaurant for an elevated view of the track or take in the races at the Carousel Club, trackside. Come out on Saturdays and enjoy high-quality stakes races and join us all summer long for an expanded event schedule. Simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of a record-setting $33 million in purses and awards? The chance to be a champion? Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you the chance to do just that. With an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships in Del Mar, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage, win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race, entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a Nominator Award of $10,000, travel awards, and so much more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. Triple Crown season has concluded, but before we move into the summer campaign, we wanted to look back at the Triple Crown races which were held some 50 years ago. Why? Because we've noticed a number of individuals on social media insisting that there would have been a Triple Crown winner in 1974, if not for the oversized field in the Kentucky Derby. The horse whom they think was robbed of a chance at history was Little Current. Foaled on April 5th, 1971 at Darby Dan Farm of breeder John Galbraith in Lexington, Kentucky, Little Current was a chestnut colt by Darby Dan stallion Seabird out of Louisiana by My Baboo. The colt's sire won the Epsom Derby and Francis Arc de Triomphe, while his mother was an unraced half-sister to champions Chateau Gay and Primonetta. Galbraith, a builder of skyscrapers and owner of Major League Baseball's Pittsburgh Pirates franchise, enjoyed spending summer vacations with his wife in the small village of Little Current, located on Georgian Bay in Ontario. So it was that Galbraith chose the name Little Current for his colt. It was said that one of Little Current's most notable physical attributes was the fact he had long, smooth muscles above his hocks. In other words, the gaskin, located on the hind legs above the hocks but below the stifles, was rather pronounced. As for overall size, Little Current stood 16 hands. Sons of Seabird were normally considered to be late developing horses that needed plenty of time between races. That's why Little Current was not expected to be a great 2-year-old and perhaps was not considered ideal for the spring classics at age 3. Sent to trainer Lou Rondinello, Little Current surprised observers by winning on debut as a juvenile. But an early challenge for Rondinello was teaching the colt to relax and race from off the pace. Winner of the Grade 2 Everglades at Hialeah early in his 3-year-old season, Little Current ran 4th in the Bluegrass Stakes a few weeks later. As for the Kentucky Derby, Little Current would go to the posted odds of 22-1, and the overflow field for the Derby's Centennial Edition would result in him getting blocked several times in traffic. He failed to hit the board that day, but he rallied from 23rd to finish 5th, beaten 6 lengths by Cannonade. 2 weeks later, Little Current, with Miguel Rivera in the irons, would be 13-1 at post time for the Preakness Stakes. Chick Anderson with the call.
They're on the turn. Jolly Joe, who by a head destroyer, is second by a half a length. On the outside, here comes Aaron to the line, and he's driving for the lead, and he's getting it. J.R. Set is trying to get through on the rail, and Cannonade is now gone to the outside, and Cannonade is making a run at the lead, too. They're at the head of the stretch. Aaron to the line is the leader as they come to the head of the stretch by 2 lengths. Cannonade is on the outside, beginning to come on. Then along the inside, Little Current is finding some room and also coming on. Tight quarters on the rail, however. They're nearing the finish. On the outside, Aaron to the line is Cannonade, but Little Current is getting through, and here he comes. They're coming to the finish, and Little Current is taking over as they come to the wire. He's drawing away. Little Current is going to be an impressive winner. He's winning it off by himself, making it 7 lengths at the finish.
Slipping through on the rail, Little Current drew clear by 7 lengths for the largest margin of victory in the Preakness in 23 years. Cannonade was a distant third. 3 weeks later, Little Current would be the 3-2 favorite in the 106th running of the Belmont Stakes. Dave Johnson with the call.
And Little Current is 7th. Gap of 5 to Ken Run and Bold and Fancy. Coming now to the quarter pole. On the inside, Jolly Joe, who holding on. Cannonade challenges from the outside, a quarter of a mile to the finish. Cannonade gets the lead by a head. Jolly Joe, who's second, and that's Little Current on the outside, closing strongly now third. Miguel Rivera in the saddle, bringing Little Current to the front. Taking command by 2 lengths. Cannonade second, Jolly Joe third, Rube the Great, and Ken Run has the 16th pole. Little Current drawing away in front.
Laying much closer to the pace, Little Current was once again able to rally for the win by a margin of 7 lengths. And once again, Cannonade finished third. Retired from racing that fall and sent to Darby Dan for stallion duty, Little Current would sire 35 stakes winners by the time of his death in January of 2003 at the age of 32. He is buried at Buck Pond Farm in Versailles, Kentucky, having also spent part of his stallion career at that facility. So, would Little Current have won the Triple Crown if not for the overflow field in the Kentucky Derby that year? Well, he made up 16 lengths at Churchill Downs that day despite the traffic, and he dominated in the following 2 legs of the Triple Crown. Rondinello said that it never made sense to dwell on the past, but he conceded that with better luck, Little Current might have won the Kentucky Derby. Many years later, John Phillips, grandson of the colt's owner and breeder, said, quote, Little Current was a kind and beautiful horse, the epitome of a Derby Dan horse. And he was the one who changed the rule, which now limits the Derby field to 20 horses, end quote. Phillips knows that the rule change in question was not specifically attributed to the bad racing luck encountered by one particular horse, but he is correct in asserting that Little Current's troubled trip likely entered the minds of those who decided the Derby field should not exceed a 20-horse limit. We remember Little Current not only for that troubled trip in the Derby, but also for his success in the Preakness and Belmont some 50 years ago. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. If you missed it, go to our website to check out the podcast of every Stroll Through Racing History. And don't forget while you're there to check out our Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton and sign up for our email newsletters to stay up to date on the latest news and guests set to appear on our shows. Dale and Tim coming up next with I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's Voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The 2024 Spring Meet at Churchill Downs is off and running with live racing Wednesday through Sunday now through June 30th. With massive purses powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund and even bigger betting pools, Pick 5 wagers have an industry-friendly 15% takeout. Churchill also features Twilight Racing every Thursday in the Grade 1 $1 million Stephen Foster on Saturday, June 29th. A Breeders' Cup win and you're in for the Classic Division. You will not want to miss the Spring Meet at Churchill Downs. Visit churchilldowns.com for more information.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
Mystic Dan is still 7 lengths off the lead. Sierra Leone launching his bid on the far outside as the field turns for home. Mindframe on the outside. It's coming after Dornoch, and it's Mindframe and Dornoch head in head with a furlong left to go. Sierra Leone is closing ground. It's Dornoch hugging the rail. Mindframe a little erratic, but he's still right there with Dornoch in an absolute thriller. Dornoch and Mindframe. It will be Dornoch and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Frank Miramati bringing them home. Dornoch's upset victory in last Saturday's Belmont, capping off another year with 3 separate winners of the Triple Crown races, which begs the question, which races this summer and fall will be most important to lock down a 3-year-old championship? Plus, which horse was most impressive in victory last Saturday afternoon at Saratoga, and which horse provided the most shocking upset? And on this Father's Day weekend, we're going to spend some time remembering our favorite equine dads. We'll talk about the sires that we love so much. Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf rider Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
Guys, every week we encourage our listeners to submit questions, and it seems like that is really catching on because this week we have 2 more listener-submitted questions, and we begin with this one. It comes from Sean in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and I hope I said the name of that town correctly. With 3 different winners of the Triple Crown races again this year, which race or combination of races will secure the Eclipse Award for a 3-year-old colt this season? And I'll throw out some options. You have the Haskell, the Jim Dandy, the Travers, and the Pennsylvania Derby, all for 3-year-olds. And then the Pacific Classic, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, the Breeders' Cup Classic, beating older horses in any of those races. Which of those races or combination of would lock in an Eclipse Award for a 3-year-old this year? Tim, what do you think?
That's a loaded question, Mike. Right now, if you were to say who's the leader in the clubhouse right now, I think it's Mystic Dan and Dornoch head and head, because but I would give a slight edge to Mystic Dan only because he was second in the Preakness. As far as moving forward, Kenny McPeak has already sort of mapped out his plans. He looks like he's going to go Travers, PA Derby, and then the Breeders' Cup. And if Mystic Dan were to run the table, I think he's your 3-year-old champion. I mean, Seize the Gray. Wayne Lucas is not definitive what he's going to do next. He did say the Haskell was not off the table. Travers and Breeders' Cup. And Danny Gargan has mentioned the Haskell Jim Dandy, Travers Breeders' Cup. I think those are the 3 main players right now. I would think the Travers has to be in that mix as far as who's going to be the 3-year-old champion. And if Seize the Gray or Dornoch were to win the Haskell, then win the Travers, of course they'd have the upper hand as a 3-year-old champion. And then, we'll see what happens in the fall. But as far as I think the Travers is definitely the race that is going to be the most important to decide the 3-year-old championship. But it's really just alphabet soup right now. It's all pretty jumbled up.
Be the race that answers a lot with questions, because Jim Dandy and Haskell will split the horses up a little bit, sort of like the preps going into the Derby, and then they'll all come back together again for the Travers if everybody stays healthy. So I think that's going to be the one that defines who's going to be the champion. 3-year-old, unless one of them that doesn't win the Travers goes on and wins an older horse race. But I'm looking forward to the Haskell. You got Baffert coming back into the picture, and I love the Haskell. I just think it's a great race, and it's a great day of racing. Anybody that loves racing that hasn't been, that's an event you need to go to. You need to put that on the calendar. But like I said, Jim Dandy and Haskell will split horses up again, and then they'll all come back together in the Travers, and the Travers will answer a lot of questions. It's been an interesting year with these 3-year-olds.
Yeah, do you think Sierra Leone still has his hat in the ring for being 3-year-old champion?
I think he does. I think for sure he does. If he jumps up and runs big, I don't know if he preps him or goes straight to the Travers. But if he runs big and then runs good against older horses, he's right back in the thick of things. And he's second in the Kentucky Derby and third in the Belmont. I think he's the one with the most upside to improve finishing the year. He still hasn't run a straight race. If he starts running straight and Chad has a little time to work on him and get him fixed and get him focused, he's the one that I can see making the biggest step forward.
Tim, do you think Fierceness is still in the mix?
I don't know what to do with Fierceness. He's being pointed to the Haskell, and it seems to me, after talking to Mike Rapoli and Todd Pletcher, it seems like he needs an awful lot of time now between races. And if he runs, the Haskell runs well, I'm not positive he would come back into Travers, because he might need more time, because that's what his MO is. They're saying now that he needs more time between races, maybe 8 weeks. So that would take him out of the summer and put him in. Then he'd have to, if he were to win the Haskell, I think that puts him back into the game a little bit. But then if he comes back and beats older horses, and if he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, yeah, of course he's going to be in the mix. But he still has to do some proving.
How do you guys rate this year's 3-year-old crop?
It's a good question. Every year just about you hear people start saying this is a bad group about this time of year, especially when you have 3 different classic winners. It's either a bad group or it's a bunch of good ones that are just even with each other. Either way, it's an exciting group to watch, and I think it's been a fun 3-year-old season.
I agree with that. I think they're a very competitive group. Yeah, there might not be a horse that stands out, towers above the rest, but it's a very, very competitive group. And I think that moving forward, we're going to see these horses maybe one or two separate themselves. But right now, they've shown that they're very competitive with each other. And I'm just waiting for the one that proves that he is a lot better than the other. Maybe it is Sierra Leone, because he's certainly been knocking on the door.
We're going to get to Nick Zito and right or wrong coming up here in just a little bit here on the show. But let me throw this one at you guys. I always say, and I've said this for many, many years, that you can't judge the quality or strength of a 3-year-old crop until those horses start facing older horses later in the season. If you get some of those 3-year-olds that start knocking off the older horses in races like the Pacific Classic or the Jockey Club Gold Cup, or even when we get to the Breeders' Cup, but that's when you can really gauge the strength of a 3-year-old crop. Is that right or wrong? What do you think, Dale?
That's 100% right. You can even go further than that and see which one of these horses, and there will be somebody come out of this crowd that's kind of in the second tier that's a great 4-year-old next year. And when you start seeing that, you get more respect for the crop. Like I said, this time of year, how often do you hear people talking about what a bad group it is after the Triple Crown season's over? But if they go on and start beating older horses, everybody will change their tune.
And we haven't even talked about Mind Frame. I mean, he was so hyped going into the Belmont, and he might have won the race if he hadn't wandered out in the stretch. I mean, if he were to jump up and, let's say he wins the Travers and then he beats older horses, then he's right in the mix too. So I think it's a little too early to bash these 3-year-olds, because I think that we're going to have a lot of fun with them moving forward.
Yeah, far more questions than answers, but those answers will be provided over the course of the next 6 months or so as we make our way into the summer and fall racing seasons. All right, let's talk about a couple of the undercard stakes that we saw last weekend, and we'll do it this way, guys. Which was the more shocking upset last Saturday at Saratoga? Was it Idiomatic being beaten in the Ogden Phipps, or was it Sierra Leone losing in the Belmont? Dale, which was more shocking to you?
Probably Idiomatic. I mean, Sierra Leone still hasn't gotten over the hump. He keeps showing promise, but he hasn't been there yet. And, she was so dominant last year and such a dominant filly. I would say her defeat was a bigger upset.
I have to agree with that. And Idiomatic came in 6 straight wins, 10 of 13. And the fact that at the start of that race, she didn't have the greatest of starts. She spotted the field a little bit. She might have, and the way she came running, I thought she probably was the best horse in the race. No offense to Randomize, who ran well, but Idiomatic was, that was one of the horses that I had circled as being maybe one of the showstoppers on that card. And to see her get beat at the Graveyard of Favorites, I guess you can't be too surprised because it's Saratoga, but I was surprised that she got beat. And the thing about Sierra Leone, like Dale said, that horse is just hasn't done it yet. So you can't be really surprised that he got beat. But, Idiomatic for me.
All right, let's flip that around. Which horse was the most impressive winner last Saturday at Saratoga? Was it National Treasure in the Met Mile or Bookham Dano in the Woody Stevens? What do you think, Dale?
I don't know. They both ran great races. It's hard to say which one's most impressive, but I thought Bamford's horse ran an awful big race. I've always been a fan of his anyway. He's the real deal, so I'll take him.
National Treasure winning the Met by 6 1/4 lengths. I mean, that was both of those horses were making their first start since the Saudi Cup day and in February, and they kind of debunked the theory that horses get knocked out from the ship and the running in Dubai and then shipping back. Bookham Dano was, that was the plan. That was his plan to get a big rest after Dubai and target summer races. And remember when he was in the Saudi Derby, he only lost by a head to Forever Young, who was a lip from being the Derby winner. So They were both impressive winners on Belmont Day, but the fact that National Treasure won by so much, I think you have to hand it to him. Bookham Dano, beat a pretty nice horse in Prince of Monaco from the Baffert barn, who was making his first start since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and he ran big too. So I think it's apples to oranges. Both of them ran really big.
Yeah, some great racing on the undercard on Belmont Day last Saturday at Saratoga. Those just a few of the races that we saw. Let's continue to look back on the Belmont in our next segment, where we welcome our friend Nick Zito to the program, and Dale and Tim get to tell me if the following statement or statements are right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
Yeah, 2 statements for you this week, guys. We'll kick it off this way. If this year's Belmont Stakes were run at Belmont Park at the usual 1.5-mile distance, we would be talking about a different winner here this morning. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right
Timmy?
or wrong?
Can I say maybe?
I've never heard Nick Zito say maybe.
Well, maybe so. There's a couple theories on that. I mean, Dornoch was running so well, maybe he wasn't going to let anyone get by him. But also, Mind Frame, he might have won the race. We talked about that a little bit before if he hadn't drifted out. Maybe he goes by him and wins the race. But at that extra distance, we don't know. It's 1.5 miles. And Sierra Leone was coming at the end. Does he go by them all? I'm going to say maybe, but because Dornoch won the race, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he would have held on.
That surprised me, Tim, but I'm going to say no also. I want to say Dornoch ran a big race. Pace and arrow would have been different at 1.5 miles. He'd have gone a lot slower. I think it's actually easier for a speed horse, and I think that it would have been tougher for Sierra Leone to close from way back where he was at Saratoga. So I'm going to say no. Dornoch, he won, and he would have won anyway.
Yeah, I brought that pace scenario up to Danny Gargan when he joined me on my Trainer Talk show this week, Dale, and I said it exactly like you just did. I think the 1.5 mile Belmont distance may have actually aided his chances because he would have gotten a little slower pace, and he probably would have had more left at the end, and the closers probably wouldn't have gotten to him that day either. So I agree. I think that the answer to this question is that it would be wrong to think that we'd be looking at a different winner. How about this one? After another dominant win over females in last Friday's Acorn, Torpedo Anna deserves her shot against the boys this summer. Is that right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Tim, what do you think?
It might be right for the people wanting to see it, but it's wrong because it's not going to happen. Kenny McPeak has already come out and said he wants to keep Torpedo Anna with the fillies. He's targeting the Coaching Club Oaks and then the Alabama. And then I believe maybe the Cotillion, and then the Breeders' Cup Distaff. And would that be enough for him to win Horse of the Year? For her to win Horse of the Year? I don't know. I mean, usually filly has to beat the boys to do that, but she might have earned a chance to do it. But I don't think she's going to get it. As long as Mystic Dan is still around, he's not going to run them both together. So I would say that as of right now, and as we all know, things can change in a heartbeat in this game. I would think she stays with her own kind.
She's awfully dominant. She probably would have been a contender in the Belmont, but I don't see any upside in her. Keep her with the fillies, let her just dominate her division, win her championship, but there's just not enough upside to knock her off her game. She has to run so much harder, it might back her up. Right now, there's nobody beating her in that class.
Yeah, she looks like the real deal right now, does Torpedo Anna. Would be fun to see, but probably not going to happen, as Timmy just outlined, as Kenny's already said. He's thinking about keeping her with the girls. All right, we're going to bring back Right or Wrong, and we'll bring back Nick Zito next week here on the program. But we have 2 more topics to get to before Dale and Tim make their final point of the week. And this next one comes from Shane in North Carolina, who wants to know, with the news of Breeders' Cup Classic champion White Abarrio being sent back to the barn of Saffie Joseph, if you guys could pick 2 horses currently in training to transfer into your barn as a trainer, who would you choose? Tim, which 2 would you choose if you were a trainer?
That'd be a pretty scary thought if I was a trainer, huh? But for me, it's pretty cut and dry. I would take Torpedo Anna because she's just so dominant, which we've already discussed about how good she is. I mean, she's won 5 or 6 races by 32 lengths, I think it is. She would have the spot right next to the Office, I would think. And the other one, I think, would be Mindframe, because I think his upside is tremendous. And, you know, he won his first 2 starts in dominating fashion, and the question mark was how would he do jumping into the deep end of the pool, and he did pretty darn good in the Belmont. Moving forward, I think there's just the sky's the limit for this one. I think he's going to be a major player the rest of the way, so I'll take him.
Yeah, I'm going to give you maybe a couple of curveballs. I'd like to have Sierra Leone. I think he's a quirky horse. They're fun to do with a ton of talent, and they're always fun to work with. Not that we do any better. Chad does a great job with him, but it would be fun to have him in the barn. And I do think he has tremendous upside, and when he figures it all out. I'll tell you another horse I like, Cogburn. Not this time, Cole. I think he's as dominant. We never talk about him. He's as dominant in his class of sprinting on the turf as any horse in the country. So I would take those 2.
Yeah, he ran a hole in the wind, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I thought we had him turning for home. I thought we had a chance anyway. And I tell you, he just dominates that division. That's not an easy division to be dominant in when they're sprinting on the turf, because it's just a little bobble and you can lose the race. But he was super impressive.
That may be that's a candidate. That's a candidate for the most impressive winner on Belmont Day on the undercard.
Yeah, we don't ever talk about him. I don't think that division gets much respect, but I tell you what, he's pretty impressive. And I love the name, Rooster Cogburn, one of my favorite characters.
Yep. Yep. Fantastic.
Hey, before you move on,
yeah,
the trivia question of the day. You guys do know why Bookham Dano has his name, right? What that
We've been through this 3 different times on the show already.
Yes, we have, Tim.
Well, I want to.
Why 5-0 Bookham Dano? We got it all. We've already talked about this, too.
I just want to make sure you guys were on your toes.
Okay, all right.
Either that, I got to start taking Premagen.
All right.
I think Idiomatic would be fun to have in my barn. I think she's going to turn out to be really, I mean, obviously she's fantastic. We know that, but I think this was just a blip on the radar. She ran hard. I think you're going to see more good things from Idiomatic for the rest of the season. And, Tim, I'm kind of with you on the Torpedo Anna thing. If I'm going to stick with a 3-year-old, she might be the most exciting 3-year-old to have in my barn right now. So those would be my 2 if I'm going to try and answer the question that I posed to the 2 of you here this morning. How about this one? One last topic, and then we'll get to your final point of the week. I'm going to throw one bonus topic at you here if we have time at the end, too. I'll get to that in a second. But tomorrow is Father's Day. So, first of all, we want to wish all the dads throughout HRRN Nation a very happy Father's Day. And, Dale, that includes you, my friend. And we also want to take time to pay tribute to some of our favorite or our most notable equine dads. So I'm going to ask you guys, which sires are always going to stand out to you for whatever reason? They're always going to have a special place in your heart. Dale, you want this one first?
Yeah, I'll say Ken's Joy. He's the only champion I've trained, and he's the greatest horse I was ever around, and went on to be a great sire. But I'll tell you, one of my favorites always was Northern Dancer. There's so much history in him. You know, he's such a track record for the Derby before Secretariat, and he actually changed the whole breed and is so influential in the breed today. And there's a good story about Vincent O'Brien came over to buy a young horse, and he saw a Northern Dancer in the field and said, this is going to be a great sire. They had a distinctive look about them. They all looked different than the rest of the horses. And then he came over and bought all the best Northern Dancers, and the rest was history.
Love that.
We could talk about this probably for an hour.
Yes, we could.
There's so many of them. Just to throw a few out, though. Bold Ruler, I think was a horse of the year himself, but he was the leading North American sire 8 times. He sired Secretariat. Enough said. You got to put him on your list. And, just going down the list of Danzig and Stormcat, Mr. Prospector, all they did was produce stakes winners, all of them. And, the Stormcat had eight champions, I want to say. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's 8. And, those are the ones of yesteryear, but even the ones now. Into Mischief has been the leading sire 5 years in a row, and the up and comers like Good Magic, and who sired Dornoch and Mage and Golden Sense.
Mr. Dan. Don't forget, not this time.
You interrupted me. I was going to say him.
Okay, all right, keep going.
Not this time.
Continue.
And Gun Runner, Golden Sense. The list just goes on and on and on of these horses that, some had really good careers on the track, some had shortened careers on the track, but then they went to the breeding shed, and they just were phenomenal in their second careers. I mean, you just can't say enough about the depth of the really good sires that we've seen over the years, and probably will continue to see.
It's a fun topic.
Yeah, we appreciate that topic. And, again, if you have a question or a topic you want Dale and Tim to discuss here on the program, email that topic to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, or you can post it on our social media pages, and we will get that worked in for you in the weeks ahead. Guys, here's one bonus topic before we get to our final point of the week. On Wednesday, Perry Oots, who is going to be 70 years young coming up next month, he won 3 of his 4 races at Belterra Park on Wednesday, and the guy just continues to click along. He has 7,442 career wins coming into today's races. The guy's a freak. When you hear the name Perry Oots, Dale, what things come to mind?
Just think about the fitness level of a 70-year-old man just to get around there, much less compete at the high of a level. He's the modern-day Jack LaLanne. And it's really unbelievable. And what a good guy, too. I haven't been around him since I was a lot younger. But the other thing about him, he's had the same agent for 40 years. They've worked together. Incredible.
Wow.
How? I mean, in what sport would you see anybody age 70 still competing at a high level? The only thing I could think of is maybe golf, but you don't see that very often. Bowling, I don't know if that's a sport. But to be able to have your body conditioned at the age of 70 and be able to have the strength to still guide these horses, and then the reaction, and be able to make split-second decisions at that age, it's just it's phenomenal. He's got to be a marvel. I mean, it's to be able to do that at that age is just remarkable, and God bless him, and I hope he keeps doing it for as long as he can and as long as he wants to, because I think it's just great for the sport. And he's obviously not a danger because he knows what he's doing. Yep.
Yeah, Perry Wayne Oots. Guys, he ranks 5th all-time in terms of number of victories by a jockey, 7,442 to his credit, as I mentioned. He's behind Russell Bays, Lafitte Pincay Jr., Bill Shoemaker, Pat Day, all Hall of Famers. Is Perry Oots a Hall of Famer?
My theory, open the door, put him in. He deserves a major impact on the game.
Well, that's a tough one because, you have to – just being longevity doesn't put you in the Hall of Fame. You have to win some of these big races, and he hasn't done that. Is he a Hall of Famer? Probably not, but that doesn't mean he's just not a phenomenal rider.
Yeah, and as Dale mentioned, that fitness level for a guy that's 70 years young to be able to do what he's doing. Congratulations to Perry Oots. Keep it going, man. Here's to the next 70 years. Just keep it rolling and keep winning races. Do what you're doing. Okay, time now for the final point of the week. Dale and Tim get to give us their parting shot, if you will. And Timmy, always like to start with you first on this one, my friend. What do you got for us this week?
Well, after spending the 4-day Belmont at Saratoga Festival, it was a phenomenal job. They pulled it off. Naira pulled it off, and the crowd they had on Belmont Day at Saratoga was one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen there. I still think the American Pharoah crowd was more was more excited than this one was because it was American Pharoah. And our friend Dale Romans upset the apple cart that day and became the villain, but that was fine too. But the only gripe I heard was the lines at the bathrooms were too long. But I thought they did a great job, and they'll do it again next year.
Yeah, phenomenal weekend. It was one of the most enjoyable times I've had at the races. I don't remember when I've had more fun just hanging out and being a fan. And ran one horse. It was a great weekend. The other thing I want to point out is if anybody's seen the statistics on the catastrophic injury rates, we're at a record low over the last year. And so whatever we've been doing, it seems to be working. Heist is doing their job, it looks like. Let's just keep working to get it lower.
Amen to that. Yep, fantastic stuff. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin. Guys, enjoy the weekend. We're going to do it all over again next week, and maybe a special guest joining us next week as well. We'll tease that throughout the week, and it would be fun to have this person aboard with us, but we'll let the cat out of the bag later this week. Enjoy the weekend.
Sounds good. All right, fellas. Talk to you next week.
All right. If you have a topic you would like to hear Dale and Tim discuss, you know what to do. Email it to me, Mike@horseracingradio.net. Post it on our social media pages, and we will work it in for you. I Ask They Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton.
Please join me in welcoming Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher.
Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito on Trainer Talk. Welcome Hall of Famer Bob Baffert to the program. Hall of Fame trainer Shug McGahee, nice enough to spend some time with us. Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott here on Trainer Talk. Dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Cassie.
Trainer Talk, the biggest names in horse racing. Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hey, did you know that the June issue of Blood Horse features 138 pages, including a variety of special features you won't want to miss? You can download a copy of the June issue now from the Blood Horse Magazine tablet app via the App Store or Google Play, and you can order a copy at shop.bloodhorse.com or subscribe today at subscribe.bloodhorse.com. Fantastic stuff from Blood Horse. Great stuff from Dale and Tim in the previous segment, too. Looking back on the Belmont, talking about some of those. And the question that was brought up about the sires, right, on this Father's Day weekend. I thought kind of a cool angle to talk about here, because there are so many stallions that, listen, we fall in love with these racehorses when they're on the track and we gravitate toward them, and then it seems like they're taken away from us far too quickly because of the economics of the game now, and they go off to stud. But the wonderful thing about our industry and our game is that even after they're retired to stud, so many of these farms, the vast majority, make these horses available for you to go see. So if you're in the bluegrass, if you're in Kentucky, anywhere, and you decide, hey, I'm in love with Good Magic, I want to go see Good Magic, well, Hillendale is very welcoming, and so many of the different stud farms do the same thing, and they love to have you out there, and quite often they'll give you some merchandise that has the stallion's name on it, maybe a cap or a jacket or something. They are just so welcoming, and that is one of the great things about our sport. Just because they're not on the racetrack anymore doesn't mean that you can't go enjoy your favorite racehorses and spend some time with them. Love it. So unique. My thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible. If you missed any portion of the program, head back to our website. Check out the podcast whenever you get some time. You can do that, too, on every podcast platform. Continue to follow us on social media. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, to Chauncey for handling all of our social media. Happy Father's Day to each of them, and to all the dads throughout HRRN Nation. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the weekend. And yeah, go Steelers.